My in-laws blamed me for bad parenting after my child passed away. Months later, they sued us, but the judge shut them down instantly. 5 years of marriage, 4 beautiful children, and the quiet joy of building the life we always dreamed of. But one pregnancy changed everything. A hidden tumor. A loss that shattered us. And a single sentence spoken at a family gathering that would burn every bridge we thought was unshakable. So this is the part I never thought I'd tell. My wife and I have been married for 5 years, and we have always wanted to have a large family. Because we are Christians, we decided to wait until after the wedding before trying. 4 months later, she became pregnant, and we welcomed our first son. We had our daughter just a year after our first child was born. A year later, we had our second son. Finally, 3 years later, we had our second daughter. However, this pregnancy differed from the other ones. Throughout this pregnancy, my wife was continuously complaining about her back pain and being sore all the time. During the delivery, the physicians discovered she had a tumor in her uterus and had to do emergency surgery. Fortunately, my wife recovered very well, but the doctors informed us that we would be unable to have any more children. After learning this, she suffered from postpartum depression since she believed she was failing to provide me with the large family I desired. But I told her that everything was just fine. Despite my repeated assurances, her despair did not improve for several months. She was meant to have only 4 months of maternity leave, but she elected to stay for 8. I chose to contact my brother because we were quite close. He's always been an excellent role model and older brother to me. However, his wife does not appear to like me or my wife for whatever reason. She is constantly comparing her children to ours, and commenting on how unhealthy our firstborn boy's life is. Despite the fact that he is already a national chess master, she believes he should spend his time doing kid-related activities rather than on some esoteric board. But we've already discussed this with our son, and he adores chess, and the fact that he's good at it has no bearing on his daily life. She also likes to make comments about my girls, but neither I nor my wife seem to mind for the most part. My brother claims it's because she's pregnant and emotional. My brother was quite helpful around the house, which made our lives much easier. Now, I adore my wife, and she is the best human and mother on the globe. However, she may be a little reckless with the youngsters. This did not happen with our first child, but I believe that having all of her feelings pent up during the second pregnancy caused her to become emotionally obsessed. Sometimes she forgot the stove was turned on, and I had to switch it off to keep the home from exploding, but I never informed her that she needed to be more alert, because I knew she was already dealing with a lot. That's when it occurred. While I was at work, my wife decided to take the children to the park. My daughter was hit by a car and died despite 6 hours of emergency surgery. My wife has no clear recollection of what happened, and I do not wish to discuss it on this forum. However, that was the most horrific experience of my life. My wife and I have been dealing with it for the past 4 months, and even though we are hurting internally, we must continue to care for our children. This is also about the time that my brother's wife invited the entire family to a pool party at their home. My wife and I believed it would be beneficial for our children to socialize with their relatives. My entire family was present, and they were all very supportive of me and my wife. Except for my brother's wife, everyone expressed their sympathies in a nice manner. According to my brother, it was simply that her emotions were out of whack due to her pregnancy. But my wife has never acted like this. Still, we all attempted to have fun, and the kids were clearly having a fantastic time in my brother's massive pool. That was until the youngsters started pulling pranks on us. While I was standing on the edge of the pool, the kids pushed me into it. I thought this was humorous at first, but then they went too far and damaged my and my wife's brand new Tesla. We carefully explained to all of the children, including my nephews, why these types of pranks were unacceptable. In the middle of my lecture, my brother's wife interrupted and began shouting at me and my wife. She informed us that we had no grounds to speak with their children, and that it was most likely all my children's fault. My wife was obviously not having it, claiming that the children were the ones who caused the damage. Things became increasingly tense, and other family members arrived to see the chaos. That's when my brother's wife dropped a bombshell. "Maybe this is why your daughter died." My wife burst into tears and left, but I stayed and demanded an explanation. But what occurred next was even crazier. My brother Malric instantly came in between us. His cheeks flushed as he gripped my shoulders. "Callum, calm down, she didn't mean it like that." When I tried to shove past him, his hold tightened. "You know how pregnancy hormones are, Corinna's been having a really tough time." I looked at him in bewilderment. Corinna stood behind him, arms crossed over her big tummy, chin raised fiercely. The pool filter buzzed in the unexpected silence as our family members moved awkwardly around us. Pregnancy hormones? My voice broke. She just said that about Lyra. About my daughter. Look, I know it came out wrong, Malric said, his hands still resting on my shoulders. But you're both emotional right now. Let's just take a breath and... Both emotional? I pushed his hands away. My 3-year-old daughter is dead, Malric, and your wife. Just stop being so dramatic, Corinna said, walking around Malric. I'm sorry if you took it the wrong way, but you were yelling at my kids. What was I supposed to do? My hands shook as I pointed to the severe scrapes on our Tesla door. They damaged our car. We were explaining why that's not okay to all the kids. Oh, please, it's just a car. She rolled her eyes. You can afford to fix it, unlike some of us who actually have to budget for our growing families. My mother appeared at my elbow, speaking softly. Callum, honey, maybe we should all just cool off. This heat is getting to everyone. The heat. I looked around at my family. My cousins avoided eye contact. My aunt studied her sandals. Uncle Thaddeus instantly became fascinated by the pool tiles. She just used my daughter's death as a weapon. And you're blaming the heat? Nobody's blaming anything, Mom answered hurriedly. But Corinna is 7 months pregnant. You remember how Alara was during her pregnancies? These things happen. These things occur. The words tasted bitter. Alara never said anything nasty about someone's deceased child. Because Alara never had anyone discipline her perfect little angels, Corinna was furious. Maybe if you two weren't so busy trying to be parents of the year you'd have noticed. Corinna, Malric admonished, but she persisted. What? I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. They act like their kids are so special. Chess champion this. Honor roll that. Well, look where all that helicopter parenting got them. I pushed forward, but 3 sets of hands stopped me. My cousin Jake, Uncle Thaddeus, and even my younger brother Tom created a barrier between us. Not worth it, man, Jake grumbled. Think of Alara. Alara. I spun around, looking for my wife. The sliding glass door to the house remained open, the drapes still fluttering. She'd overheard everything. I need to check on my wife, I muttered, pulling loose from their clutches. Callum, wait, Malric called after me. We can work this out. It's family. I hesitated at the doorway. Family doesn't do this, Malric. Inside I discovered Alara in the bathroom, sitting on the closed toilet lid, her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook with quiet sobbing. I knelt in front of her and carefully moved her hands away from her face. Hey, I said quietly. I'm here. She said it was our fault. Alara's voice was hardly heard. That Lyra died because of us. She's wrong. You know she's wrong. But what if... No. I cupped her face. No what ifs. What happened to Lyra was an accident. A terrible, horrible accident. Not your fault. Never your fault. A knock at the door halted us. Ilara? Callum? It was my sister-in-law Junia, Malric's younger sister. Can I come in? Ilara nodded, so I opened the door. Junia slipped inside and closed the door behind her. I'm so sorry, Junia apologized quickly. What Corinna said was unforgivable. Then why is everyone out there forgiving it? I requested an explanation. Junia exhaled. Because they're cowards. Because it's easier to pressure you two to let it go than to confront her. She's pregnant, Alara stated bluntly. Apparently that excuses everything. It doesn't, Junia replied firmly. And this isn't the first time. Alara and I both looked up to her. Junia bit her lips. Remember when cousin Isolde lost her baby stillborn? At the Christmas party that year, Corinna made a comment about how maybe it was nature's way, because Isolde was over 40 inches. My stomach twisted. I didn't know about it because Isolde never attended another family event. She shut off all contact with those present and refused to defend herself. Junia's voice was sour. Which was basically everyone. Why didn't anyone tell us? Alara inquired. Because Malric always makes excuses. Because Mom thinks keeping the family together is more important than anything else. Because everyone would rather enable a bully than risk drama at Sunday dinners. Another knock. Callum? Alara. It was my mother again. Everyone's worried. Can we talk? I gazed at Alara. Her expression had hardened into something I hadn't seen before. She stood wiping her eyes. Yes, she answered. Let's talk. We exited from the bathroom to find the majority of the family congregating in Malric's living room. Corinna sat in the middle of the couch, Malric's arm around her, playing the hurt pregnant woman role. The kids had been sent somewhere else, most likely to the game room. Alara, sweetheart, my mother began. We all understand you're going through a difficult time. Stop. Alara raised her hand. Just stop. You all understand? Really? Which one of you has buried a child? Silence. Which one of you has had to pick out a casket small enough for a 3-year-old? Which one of you has had to explain to her siblings why their sister isn't coming home? Alara, Aunt Selene said. We're not saying we understand completely. You're not saying anything, Alara exclaimed, her voice rising. None of you said anything when she weaponized my baby's death. You stood there. You let it happen. And now you want me to be the bigger person, to let it go for the sake of family unity? Uncle Thaddeus stated, sometimes we have to forgive. Family quote. Alara laughed, but it was sharp and fractured. Family doesn't stand by while someone uses your dead child as ammunition in an argument about scratched paint. Family doesn't make excuses for cruelty. Family doesn't choose comfort over compassion. You're being overdramatic, Corinna mumbled from the couch. Alara gently turned towards her. Say that again. I said you're being overdramatic. I'm sorry if what I said hurt your feelings, but if... Alara moved closer. If it hurt my feelings? You told me my daughter died because of my parenting. You used the worst pain I've ever experienced as a weapon because you were mad about your kids being disciplined. I'm pregnant, Corinna stated, as if that explained everything. I've been pregnant 4 times, Alara responded. Never once did hormones make me cruel. Never once did carrying a life inside me make me callous about another life lost. Everyone handles pregnancy differently, Malric added. Corinna's been having a really hard time. Stop, I instructed. Stop making excuses. Stop enabling her. Stop choosing her comfort over our pain. I'm not choosing anyone, Malric objected. I'm just saying we can all move past this. We're family. No, Alara replied gently. We're not. Not anymore. The room erupted. Everyone was talking at once, attempting to persuade us that we were overreacting, being overly sensitive, and breaking up the family. Corinna sat on the couch with a faint, contented grin the entire time. Enough. Alara's yell hushed everyone. You want to know what breaks up a family? Standing by while someone attacks grieving parents, making excuses for cruelty, choosing to enable a bully rather than protect the vulnerable. She turned to face everybody. 4 months ago I lost my daughter. Every day since then, I've woken up to a world that's missing her laugh, her smile, her little hands in mine. And I've survived it because I thought I had family who understood that pain, who would protect that sacred grief from being weaponized. It shattered her voice. But you've shown me today that keeping Corinna comfortable is more important than keeping Lyra's memory respected. That avoiding conflict matters more than standing up for what's right. Alara, please, my mother asked again. Think of the cousins. The kids shouldn't suffer because the adults can't get along. The kids? Alara asked, her eyes flashing. You're worried about the kids? Where was that concern when Corinna said what she said in front of any child who might have been listening? What message does it send when they see cruelty excused because the cruel person is pregnant? No one responded. Alara walked to where our children were gathering by the door, having slipped back to see what all the fuss was about. She kneeled down to their level. Get your things, she replied gently. We're going home. But Mom, our oldest argued. We were having fun. I know, baby, but sometimes we have to leave situations that aren't healthy, even when it's hard. As we packed our belongings, the family continued to complain. Malric followed us to the door. Callum, come on, don't do this. She didn't mean it. You know she didn't mean it. I turned to face my brother. That's the problem, Malric. I think she did mean it. And I think you know she meant it. But you'd rather we swallow our pain than confront your wife's cruelty. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed cruelly. Was it fair when she used our daughter's death against us? Was it fair when every single person in that room chose to protect her instead of us? We're not choosing sides. Yes, you are. You chose, and you chose her. We loaded the children into the car. As I started the engine, my phone began to vibrate with texts. Alara's too. Family members attempted to guilt us into returning, apologizing, and letting it go for the sake of family harmony. Alara turned her phone off and looked out the window. They'll never understand, will they? No, I replied. They won't. I can't go back there, she muttered. I can't sit across from her at Christmas dinner and pretend she didn't say what she said. I can't watch everyone act normal while knowing they'd rather protect her than us. Then we won't, I replied simply. We'll make our own holidays, our own traditions, with people who actually care about us. Alara leaned across and grabbed my hand. I'm sorry, your family. They're not my family, I clarified. Not anymore. Family doesn't do what they did today. As we drove away, I noticed Malric still standing in the doorway, Corinna alongside him, hand on her belly, and the same delighted grin. The rest of the family had most likely already moved on, convinced themselves that we'd calm down, that we'd come around, and that family came first over principles. They were wrong. That night, after the kids had fallen asleep, Alara and I sat on our back terrace, where Lyra used to play with her toy tea set, feeding us pretend pastries and telling us complex stories about her stuffed animals. I miss her so much, Alara confessed. I know, me too. And now we've lost them too. Your family. I pulled her closer. We haven't lost anything worth keeping. Anyone who could stand by while you were attacked like that, anyone who could make excuses for that kind of cruelty, they're not family. They're just people we happen to share DNA with. Your mom will probably call tomorrow, try to smooth things over. Probably. What will you say? I thought about it. That Corinna crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. That they had a choice between protecting grieving parents or enabling a bully, and they chose wrong. That we won't expose ourselves or our children to that kind of toxicity again. Alara nodded against my chest. They'll say we're breaking up the family. The family broke itself when they chose comfort over compassion. We sat quietly for a while, listening to the night sounds. We both tensed when we heard a toddler laughing in the distance. Every child's laughter sounded like Lyra's now. Every tiny girl with dark locks made our hearts skip. I keep thinking about what Junia said, murmured Alara, about Isolde, how she cut everyone off after they didn't defend her. Yeah, I used to think that was extreme, now I understand. How can you sit across from people who watched you be attacked and did nothing? Who made excuses for your attacker? Who tried to make you the villain for not accepting the attack? You can't, I replied simply. My phone vibrated again. Another text, this one from my mother. Please do not allow this devastate our family. Think about what Lyra might desire. I showed it to Alara, her expression stiffened. She did not just invoke Lyra to manipulate us into forgiving this. She did? Alara took my phone and typed back. Lyra would want her memory to be respected. Lyra would want to protect her parents. Lyra would want people to confront bullies rather than enable them. Do not use my daughter's name to guilt us into accepting mistreatment. She pressed send before I could stop her. Not that I'd have. I'm done, she stated. Done trying to keep the peace. Done swallowing my pain so others can be comfortable. Done pretending that family means accepting any treatment because of shared blood. Good, I answered, because I am too. The next morning brought a deluge of phone calls. I had put my phone on quiet, but the screen was continuously lighting up with names I had grown up trusting. Dad, Aunt Celine, Uncle Thaddeus, and even relatives who hadn't been to the party were involved after hearing a version of events that undoubtedly showed us as unreasonable. Alara sat at the kitchen table, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly while our children ate breakfast. Our oldest son continued staring between us, clearly sensing something was amiss but unsure what had changed in our world overnight. Are we going to see Uncle Malric today? He said honestly. Alara's hand remained still. I placed my own mug carefully. Not today, buddy, I replied. We're going to have a family day, just us. But we were supposed to practice chess with cousin Soren this weekend. The knife of that simple statement twisted. Soren, Malric's oldest, had been learning chess from our son. They had developed a true camaraderie over the game. Two children who were unconcerned by adult issues. We'll figure something else out, Alara murmured softly. Sometimes plans change. Our younger daughter looked up from her breakfast. Is it because of what happened at the pool, when everyone was yelling? Children took heed of everything. We attempted to shield them, but they had heard enough. Sometimes adults disagree on important issues, I said thoughtfully. And sometimes we need space from each other to figure things out. Like when me and Jamie fight and Mom makes us go to different rooms? Inquired the girl. Something like that, sweetheart, My phone vibrated again. This time it was Malric. Callum, we need to communicate directly, without the wives. I can come by this afternoon. I showed Alara. She read it, then shook her head. Without the wives, she reiterated. Because clearly I'm the problem here. You're not the problem. You've never been the problem. I know that. But they don't. I typed back. There is nothing to discuss. Your wife crossed the line. You defended her. That explains everything I need to know. His response was quick. You are being stubborn. She is pregnant and emotional. You can't abandon a family because of a single angry comment. One comment. As if those words weren't carefully selected weapons. As if the cruelty had not been planned. Block him, Alara stated gently. Please. I can't. I can't watch you have these conversations. It hurts too much. I blocked Malric's number. Then, one by one, I blocked the others who had been standing by and watching. Mom was the toughest. Her name appeared on my computer, with decades of memories linked to those 3 letters. But she had made her decision yesterday. She had chosen the easier road over the correct one. The kids finished breakfast and went about their typical Saturday morning activities. Our son to his chess computer, our younger daughter to her art supplies, and our middle child to his reading. The house was strangely quiet without the typical expectation of family reunions, cousin playdates, and Sunday dinners. What do we tell people? Alara inquired. Our friends, the kids' teachers when they ask why the cousins don't pick them up anymore? The truth. That we've decided to distance ourselves from family members who don't respect us. They'll think we're overreacting. That we're those people who cut off family over petty drama. Let them think that. I stretched across the table for her hand. We know the truth. Using our dead daughter as a weapon isn't petty. Standing by while it happens isn't drama. It's betrayal. Alara's telephone rang. This time it's her mother. She had attended the party but had departed early before the confrontation. Alara gazed at the screen before answering. Hi, Mom. I could hear her mother's voice, worried but measured. Alara's face alternated between emotions as she listened. Yes, I heard what happened. No, Mom. She said our daughter died because of how we parent. I don't care if she's pregnant. Mom, stop. Her voice became harder. If you're calling to tell me to forgive and forget, you can save your breath. What Corinna said was unforgivable. And the fact that Callum's family defended her tells me everything I need to know about their values. A pause. Her mother raised her voice slightly. Then they're wrong, Alara stated plainly. I'm not ruining the family. The family ruined itself when they chose to protect an abuser instead of the abused. Yes, I said abuser. Using someone's dead child against them is abuse, Mom. Another pause. I have to go, Alara remarked. I love you but I won't discuss this anymore. Either you support us or you don't. But I won't be convinced that we're wrong for protecting ourselves. She shut up the phone and laid it aside, her hands shaking. She thinks we should reconcile for the children's sake. Everyone's very concerned about the children when it suits them, I added with a smile. Where was that concern for our children when Corinna attacked their dead sister's memory? The weekend passed in an unusual bubble. There were no family texts discussing Sunday dinner arrangements. No cousins came by. Malric did not arrive with his tools to assist with household projects. Absence felt both exhilarating and suffocating. Monday presented additional obstacles. When I walked into work, several coworkers gave me weird stares. Word spread quickly in our interconnected world. Malric and I worked in the same industry, but with different businesses. We had mutual professional contacts. My coworker Lucian approached me during lunch. Hey man, heard there was some family drama this weekend, you okay? I tightened. What did you hear? Just that there was some big blow-up at Malric's place, that you and Alara stormed out and are refusing to talk to anyone. The narrative was already taking shape. We were the unreasonable ones who stormed out, not the bereaved parents who were beaten. There was an incident, I explained carefully. Someone said something cruel about our daughter who passed away. We decided it was best to leave. Lucian's face shifted. Oh. Oh man. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was about. I just heard you guys were being dramatic about some pregnancy hormones thing. Is that what Malric's telling people? He appeared uneasy. I mean, I heard it third hand. You know how these things get twisted. But I knew. Malric was already in control of the narrative, minimizing what happened and making us the villains in a story where we were the victims. That evening, Alara greeted me at the door with red eyes. The school called. Corinna showed up at pickup time for her kids and tried to take ours too. Said there must have been a miscommunication about carpooling. My blood became chilly. What did the school do? Followed protocol. She wasn't on the pickup list, so they didn't release them. But she made a scene. Told the office staff that we were having family troubles and keeping the kids from their cousins out of spite. This is escalation, I explained. She's trying to force contact through the kids. The principal offered to meet with us tomorrow to address the matter. We spent the evening drafting emails and documenting everything. Mrs. Maribel, the principal, understood when we explained the scenario in broad strokes. We didn't go into detail about Corinna's specific remarks because her sorrow was too personal to convey with strangers, but we did make it apparent that some family members were no longer permitted for pickup. I understand that family dynamics can be complicated, Mrs. Maribel explained thoughtfully. We'll make sure staff are aware of the updated list. At 9 p.m. on Tuesday, the doorbell rung. Through the peephole, I saw my mother standing on our doorstep with a casserole dish, which is the common peace offering of Southern families. Ilara looked at me and said, "Your choice." I opened the door but did not welcome her inside. "Callum," Mom began, her voice already full with passion. "This has gone on long enough. I brought your favorite." "Mom, stop." I raised my hand. "A casserole doesn't fix this. I'm not trying to fix it with food. I'm trying to get my son to talk to me. We talked on Saturday. You made your position clear when you defended Corinna. I wasn't defending her. I was trying to keep the peace. By sacrificing us." The words sounded harsher than meant. "You were keeping the peace by telling us to accept someone using Lyra's death against us." Mom's face wrinkled. "That's not, I would never." "But you did. You stood there while Corinna said our daughter died because of our parenting. And your response was to remind us she's pregnant. As if that excuse is cruelty." "She didn't mean—" "Stop saying that." The words burst forth. "Stop telling us what she meant. We heard what she said. We felt the intention behind it. And you're still here days later trying to convince us we misunderstood." Mom gripped the casserole dish tightly. "I just want my family back together." "Your family was never together, Mom. It was held together by people like Ilara and me swallowing our hurt and keeping quiet. By people like Cousin Isolde disappearing rather than making waves. By victims staying silent so abusers could stay comfortable. Corinna isn't an abuser. She used our dead child as a weapon. What would you call that?" Silence stretched between us. Down the street, a dog barked, normal neighborhood sounds, which felt weird in this context. "I should have spoken up," Mom finally said gently. When she said it, "I should have told her it was wrong." "Yes, you should have. But I can't change that now. All I can do is try to fix this going forward." "There's nothing to fix, Mom. The damage is done. Trust is broken. And honestly, I don't think it was ever really there. This just revealed what was always true. That keeping up appearances matters more than protecting the vulnerable." She burst into tears then. Real tears, not deceptive ones. "I don't want to lose you, either of you, or my grandchildren. You're not losing us. You're experiencing the consequences of your choices. There's a difference." "What does that mean?" "It means we'll still exist. We'll still be your son and daughter-in-law. But we won't pretend that Saturday didn't happen. We won't sit at family dinners with Corinna. We won't expose our children to people who think their sister's death is fair game for cruel comments." "So what? You'll just never come to family events again? Never let the cousins play together?" "The cousins can play together when their mother isn't around. Malric can bring them here, or meet us at neutral locations. But Corinna is not welcome in our lives. Neither is anyone who continues to make excuses for her." Mom wiped her eyes. "And if I can't accept that, then you're choosing her over us again." She left the casserole on the porch. I brought it inside after she drove away, and Ilara and I stood in the kitchen, looking at it as if it was about to explode. "Your mom makes good casserole," Ilara finally stated. "She does. Doesn't make her a good person though." "No, it doesn't. We threw it away. Keeping it felt like taking a bribe." Wednesday marked a new development. Junia phoned Ilara when I was at work. "I wanted you to know," Junia said over speakerphone that evening, "that I told Mom and Malric exactly what I think of them. That they're cowards who enable Corinna because it's easier than standing up to her." Ilara inquired, How'd that go? About as well as you'd expect. Malric accused me of trying to break up his marriage. Mom cried and said I was being divisive. The usual guilt trips. I'm sorry you're dealing with backlash, I told you. Don't be. Someone needed to say it. I'm just sorry I didn't say it sooner. Maybe if I'd spoken up about Isolde. We can't change the past, Alara explained gently. Just choose better going forward. That's actually why I'm calling. Thanksgiving is coming up. I'm not going to Mom's if Corinna will be there. Thought maybe we could do something together instead. You guys, me, maybe some other family refugees. Family refugees. It was appropriate. We'd like that, Alara responded. After Junia hung up, we sat there with the weird understanding that we were reconstructing. Instead of reconciling or returning to the harmful dynamic, create something fresh. Somewhat healthier. Thursday was our son's chess tournament. We pondered pulling him out because Malric and his family frequently attended these occasions. But that felt like allowing Corinna's malice to take even more away from our children. If they're there, we stay focused on our son, Alara explained as we parked. They don't exist for us. They were present. Of course they were. Malric noticed us right away and began over, but I looked away and directed our family to the registration table. I felt his presence behind us, lingering, but did not acknowledge it. Callum, he finally replied. This is ridiculous. We're brothers. I continued to fill out forms. You can't just pretend I don't exist. Watch me, I stated without turning around. The kids are confused. Soren doesn't understand why his cousin won't talk to him. That nearly broke me. The children were innocent in this situation, but I couldn't let him use them for manipulation. Then explained to Soren that his mother said something unforgivable about his cousin's dead sister. That choices have consequences. That might be a good life lesson for him. You're punishing children for adult problems. Now I turned. No, Malric. You're using children to avoid accountability for adult choices. There's a difference. Corinna sat across the tournament hall, her pregnancy becoming increasingly obvious. She attracted my attention and had the nerve to wave as if nothing had occurred, as if she hadn't used our greatest loss against us. Alara's hand touched mine. Don't let her steal this day from our son. She was correct. We picked seats far away from them and concentrated on our youngster. He performed well, as he always does when he is focused and calm. Chess was his escape and joy. Corinna had described it as unhealthy, but watching him analyze movements with laser focus and see the pride on his face when he completed a challenging strategy, this was a child in his element. He won his division. As we rejoiced, I observed that Malric and his family had already left. Good. Friday afternoon, an unexpected ally appeared. My father called. My parents had been divorced for many years, and Dad resided several states away. He'd been generally absent from family drama, something I used to despise but now appreciated. Heard through the grapevine there's been some family upheaval, he added quietly. I gave him a shortened version. Jesus, he replied when I was finished. She really said that about Lyra? Yeah. And your mother defended her? Everyone defended her, Dad. Or stood by silently, which amounts to the same thing. He was silent for a moment. You know, this reminds me of why your mother and I really divorced. What do you mean? I mean, the official story was we grew apart, but the truth? I got tired of her need to keep peace at any cost. Even when the cost was truth. Even when the cost was justice. Even when the cost was protecting the people who needed it most. I didn't know that. You were young. We kept it civil for you kids. But there was an incident with her sister. Your Aunt Celine, she was cruel to a waitress. Really cruel, made the girl cry, and when I called her out, your mother made excuses. Said Celine was having a hard time at work, that I should let it go. That sounds familiar. It was a pattern. Anytime someone in her family did something wrong, there was an excuse, a reason to look the other way, a plea to keep the peace. I realized I was raising my children to either be bullies who never faced consequences or victims who never received justice. Is that why you moved so far away? Partly. Distance helped. I couldn't change who they were, but I could control my exposure to it. Do you regret it? Losing the family connections? Son, I gained more than I lost. I gained integrity, self-respect, the ability to look at myself in the mirror without flinching. And I gained the knowledge that my children would see at least one parent stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. After we hung up, I sat with our talk. My father, whom I had always regarded as distant, had been keeping his peace all along. He had prioritized principles over locality, values over visits. That weekend Alara and I took the kids to a new park, not the one where Lyra was injured. We'd never go back there, preferring a different one across town. As they played, we discussed the future. The holidays are going to be hard, Alara stated. Thanksgiving, Christmas, all those traditions. We'll make new ones. It's not just that. It's the questions from the kids' friends, parents, from our friends. Everyone wants to know why we're not doing the big family gatherings anymore. We tell them the truth, that we're protecting our family from toxic dynamics. People don't like that answer. They want the pretty lie, that we're just doing something small this year. Then they can be uncomfortable. We're done prioritizing other people's comfort over our truth. Our daughter dashed up, breathless and happy. Mom, Dad, can we get ice cream? Of course, sweetheart. As we walked to the ice cream shop, our son fell in step with me. Dad, are we ever going to see Uncle Malric again? I had been dreading this question. I don't know, buddy. Right now we need some space from them because of what Aunt Corinna said about Lyra. The kids heard everything. We tried to protect them, but they had absorbed more than we knew. How do you know about that? I heard you and Mom talking. And Soren texted me. He said his mom didn't mean it. What do you think? He remained silent for a minute, thinking with the same concentration he used in chess. I think when someone says something mean about someone who died, they mean it. Because you have to really want to hurt someone to use that. Out of a baby's mouth. You're very wise, I informed him. So we're protecting ourselves. Yes, we're protecting ourselves and Lyra's memory. Good, he replied simply. Lyra deserves that. The ice cream shop was packed with weekend families, normal individuals enjoying normal lives, free of the burden of familial treachery. Perhaps they each had their own buried wounds, relatives who used cruelty as currency. Alara showed me her phone that night, after the kids had gone to sleep. She had been recording everything in a private journal app. Every text, every manipulation effort, and every flying monkey meant to guilt us into peace. Why? I questioned. Because I know how this goes. Time passes, memories fade, and suddenly we're the ones who overreacted to a misunderstanding. I won't let them rewrite this narrative. She was correct. The story was already being molded by people who had not been present. We were the dramatic, angry, family-destroying ones, not the bereaved parents who had been attacked by their own daughter's death. Monday morning offered another surprise. A letter from Corinna was brought to my office. Handwritten, which must have required effort considering her predilection for text-based confrontation. Callum, it read. I had been thinking about what happened at the pool party. I recognize that my statements may have been tougher than meant. Pregnancy has been challenging, and I occasionally speak without thinking. I hope we can resolve this misunderstanding for the sake of family unity. Adult disagreements should not negatively impact children. Corinna. I read it 3 times, hoping for an apology that didn't exist. It could have been harsher than intended. Misunderstanding. Not that I'm sorry for using your daughter's death to hurt you. Not what I said was nasty and incorrect. I showed Alara that evening. She laughed bitterly. She's not sorry. She's sorry there were consequences. Should I respond? No. Any response gives her ammunition. She'll twist whatever you say into evidence that we're the unreasonable ones. So I did not respond. But I saved the letter. Documentation works both ways. Tuesday was tougher. Our middle child returned home from school unhappy. There was a family tree assignment, and the teacher had inquired about grandparents, aunts and uncles. He had to explain that we no longer saw them. The teacher looked at me weird, he claimed, like I said something bad. You didn't say anything bad, Alara told him. Sometimes families take breaks from each other. But why do we have to take a break? How can you convey to a child that adults may be harsh, that family can betray, and that love cannot always conquer toxicity? Sometimes people say hurtful things, I said. And when they're not sorry, really sorry, it's okay to protect yourself from being hurt again. Like when Benny kept pushing me at recess and wouldn't stop, so I stopped playing with him. Exactly like that. He appeared satisfied with the explanation, but Alara and I exchanged glances. The ripple effects would persist. Our children would endure inquiries, criticism, and assumptions, all because we opted to shield them from those who saw their sister's murder as acceptable weapons. Malric came to our door on Wednesday night. He showed up on our porch around 8 p.m., looking haggard, with no warning or call. "Please," he said as I opened the door. "Just 5 minutes." "No, Malric." "Callum, I'm begging you. This is destroying my family. Your wife destroyed our family when she used Lyra against us. You destroyed it when you defended her." "She's pregnant." I started closing the door. "Wait. Okay, not the pregnancy excuse. I don't know what to do. Mom cries every day. Corinna and I are fighting constantly. Junia won't speak to us. The kids are confused and upset. This isn't what I wanted." "What did you think would happen, Malric? That we just swallow that pain and show up for Sunday dinner like nothing happened? I thought you'd understand. That family meant more than one moment of anger." "One moment?" I laughed. But it wasn't funny. "Malric, your wife has been cruel to us for years. Comments about our parenting, our children, our choices. We overlooked it all. But using our dead daughter as a weapon, that's not a moment of anger, that's calculated cruelty." She was upset about the car. "Stop. Just stop. If you're here to make more excuses, leave. If you're here to genuinely apologize and acknowledge what happened, we can talk. But I won't stand here and listen to you minimize what she did." He stood there, mouth opening and shutting as if he wanted to say something appropriate, but couldn't think of it. Because doing the right thing would mean acknowledging his wife was unkind. That he had prioritized her nastiness over our suffering. He had failed as a brother when we needed him the most. "I can't," he admitted finally. "I can't say she was wrong. She's my wife. And I was your brother. Alara was your sister-in-law. Lyra was your niece. But you've made it clear where your loyalties lie." I closed the door. Through the window, I saw him linger there for another minute before returning to his car. A part of me wanted to call him back, remembering training him to ride a bike, being his best man, and celebrating the births of his children. But the greater half, the part that was first and foremost a parent and husband, understood that some bridges could not be rebuilt once they were destroyed. Thursday brought a call from an unexpected source. Isolde, the cousin who had lost her kid and disappeared from family gatherings following Corinna's abuse. "Junia gave me your number," she explained. "I hope that's okay." "Of course. I heard what happened, what Corinna said. I'm so sorry." "Thank you. I wanted to call because I know what you're going through, not the loss. I can't imagine losing a child who'd lived and laughed and been part of your world for years. But the family betrayal, that I understand. How did you handle it?" "Badly at first. I kept waiting for someone to reach out. To say they were sorry for not defending me. To acknowledge that what she said was wrong. But they never did. Because acknowledging it would mean admitting they'd failed. And that family unity they prized so highly. It's built on the silence of people like us." "Do you regret cutting them off?" "No, I regret that it was necessary. I regret that they chose comfort over compassion. But cutting them off, that saved me. It let me grieve without having to pretend the people who enabled my attacker were safe. People think we're overreacting. People who haven't been through it always think that. They don't understand that some wounds are too deep for forgiveness. That some betrayals reveal who people really are, and once you see it, you can't unsee it." After we hung up, I spotted Alara in Lyra's room. We had left it mostly untouched, unwilling to face packing up her belongings. She sat on the floor, cradling one of Lyra's stuffed animals. "Isolde called," I explained, sitting alongside her. "Yeah. I told her about our talk." Alara listened, tears falling softly down her cheeks. "She's right," Alara finally replied. "About the family unity being built on silence. How many times did we bite our tongues when Corinna said something cruel? How many comments did we let slide to keep the peace? Too many. And it escalated because that's what happens when cruelty goes unchecked. It grows. We didn't know it would lead to this." "No," I replied. "But we knew it was wrong. And we stayed quiet anyway, just like everyone else is staying quiet now." Friday was Halloween. We'd always have a large family trick-or-treat party, with all the cousins dressed in matching costumes. This year, it was only us. The kids didn't complain, but I noticed our oldest going at images from last year on his phone. They're all together. Lyra, dressed as a witch, beams at the camera. "You okay, buddy?" I inquired. "Yeah. Just remembering. It's okay to miss how things were. Do you think it'll ever be normal again?" I think we'll find a new normal. Different, but still good. Without them. With people who truly care about us, who would never use Lyra's memory to hurt us. He nodded and pocketed his phone. I think Lyra would understand why we're protecting her memory. I think so too. That night, as we went across the neighborhood, I spotted other intact families taking photos and laughing. Were they truly as joyful as they appeared? Or were they also concealing wounds, remaining mute to maintain peace, and allowing violence in the sake of family unity? Our phones were mercifully silent. Maybe the family had finally accepted our boundaries. Or perhaps they were plotting their next move. In any case, tonight was just us, our small family of 5 that should have been 6, making our own memories and keeping our own peace. Saturday morning disturbed the peace. Alara awakened me early, her face pallid. Look at this. She showed me her Facebook. Corinna had written a lengthy, dramatic status update on family split, forgiveness, and safeguarding children from adult problems. She didn't mention us by name, but the comments made it apparent who she was referring to. Some people hold grudges over the smallest things, one aunt said. Pregnancy is very difficult. Another person wrote, people should be more understanding. Breaking apart a family over words is simply awful, Malrick's pal added. The story was being solidified. We held grudges. The family breakers. The ones who couldn't overlook a pregnant woman's minor error. Should I respond? Alara inquired. No, let them show themselves. Let everyone see who supports using a dead child as a weapon. But it hurt. Seeing friends we'd spent holidays with, whose children had played with ours, reduced our grief to pettiness. Seeing them unite around Corinna while we mourned not only Lyra, but the family we thought we had. My telephone rang. Junia, I answered. Did you see it? She inquired without prelude. Yeah. I commented. Told them exactly what Corinna said, used Lyra's name and everything. Let them defend that publicly. Junia, you don't have to fight our battles. Yes, I do. Because someone should have fought Isolde's. Someone should have fought yours the moment Corinna opened her mouth. Silence is what lets this continue. Junia's comment was deleted and blocked within an hour, but not before it was seen by multiple individuals. My phone started vibrating with texts from distant family members who hadn't heard the whole story. Is that exactly what she said? One cousin inquired. Why didn't someone inform me? I wrote another. The story was unraveling, but Corinna was in damage control mode. A fresh post arose, this time concerning lies, exaggerations, and people attempting to harm a pregnant woman's reputation. She's really doubling down, Alara explained. She has to. Admitting what she really said would mean admitting she's the villain in this story. However, the harm to their story had been done. Some family members who had previously been staunch supporters of peace began to reach out quietly, while not fully supporting us. That would take a lot of courage, but to express concern about what had actually occurred. We did not engage. Their sudden interest in the truth after publicly supporting Corinna seemed phony. Where was the concern while we were under attack? Where were these inquiries when we were portrayed as the unreasonable ones? Sunday arrived, and there was no family dinner. Instead, we spent a quiet morning at home. The kids cooked pancakes, we played board games. It was quiet in a way that our family reunions had never been, without the underlying strain of anticipating Corinna's next cutting remark. I don't miss it, Alara stated abruptly, seeing our children laugh during a game. I thought I would, but I don't. It was always performative, always about maintaining an image rather than actually caring for each other. She was correct. How many Sunday dinners had we endured Corinna's words while everyone pretended to ignore them? How many times had we consoled our children after she ridiculed their interests, accomplishments, and very existence, all in the name of family togetherness, which protected the harsh and silenced the hurtful? That evening my mother called again. This time I responded. I saw Junia's comment before it was deleted, she stated without explanation. Is that really what Corinna said about Lyra? Yes. Silence. I didn't hear the exact words. I just heard shouting and came to see. By the time I got there you were already leaving and Malrick was saying it was pregnancy hormones. And you believed him. Without asking us. Without checking what actually happened. I wanted to keep peace. You wanted to avoid conflict. There's a difference, Mom. Keeping peace would have meant addressing the person who broke it. You chose to pressure the victims instead, because we're more likely to comply. I didn't think of it that way. Of course you didn't. Because thinking of it that way would mean acknowledging your role in enabling abuse. Abuse is a strong word. What would you call using a dead grandchild as a weapon against grieving parents? Once again there is silence. I failed you, she confessed finally. I failed Alara. I failed Lyra's memory. Yes, you did. Can you forgive me? Forgiveness isn't the issue, Mom. The issue is trust. You showed us that when we're vulnerable, you won't protect us. That when someone attacks us with our deepest pain, you'll make excuses for them. How do we trust you after that? I don't know, she said. But I want to try. I want to do better. Then start by holding Corinna accountable publicly. Stop letting her control the narrative. Stop letting her paint us as the villains for protecting ourselves. Malric will be furious. Then Malric can be furious. His comfort isn't more important than our pain. I need to think about this. You do that. But while you're thinking, remember that every day you stay silent is another day you choose them over us. After I hung up, Alara looked at me with optimism. Do you think she'll actually do it? I don't know. Speaking up now, after publicly supporting them, would mean admitting she was wrong. That's hard for anyone, especially someone who's spent their life avoiding conflict. But at least she's finally hearing us. Maybe. Or maybe she's just trying to find a way to get us back in the fold without actually addressing what happened. Time will tell. Monday morning came proof that Mom had made her decision. A Facebook post, carefully crafted but clear. I've been contemplating about family dynamics and my place in them. I recognize I've occasionally put maintaining peace over safeguarding individuals. When someone says something nasty, particularly about a deceased child, it is not due to hormones or stress. It's cruel. And those who make excuses for it are complicit. I apologize to those I failed by being silent. I promise to do better. She didn't mention names, but everyone knew. The comments section exploded. Malric accused her of betraying the family. Corinna described her as a troublemaker. Several relatives expressed surprise that she would discuss family matters publicly. Others, however, began to speak up, including the silent ones who had previously been silenced. Stories came out. Corinna was nasty at times, and the family turned a blind eye. Long ignored behavioral patterns. It's like a dam broke, Ilara exclaimed, scrolling through the comments. All these people who've been hurt by her finally feeling safe to speak up. My telephone rang. Malric, I said. Your mother is destroying our family, he stated without greeting. Corinna destroyed our family, Mom's just finally acknowledging it. This is your fault. You and Alara making a big deal out of nothing. Using our dead daughter as a weapon is nothing. She didn't mean... I hung up. We were past the point of these circular discussions, but the family's reckoning continued. Junia called that evening, nearly ecstatic. Did you see Aunt Celine's comment? She admitted that Corinna made her daughter cry at her wedding by criticizing her dress. And Uncle Thaddeus's wife finally told the story about Corinna announcing her pregnancy at their daughter's graduation dinner. It's all coming out. Good, Alara replied. Let them all see what they've been enabling. But with the news came retribution. Corinna shared her own status, portraying herself as the victim of a planned attack. Malric defended her, alleging that others were ganging up on a pregnant woman. They declared that they will be taking a mental health break from social media and family activities. Classic, Alara mumbled. Play victim when accountability comes knocking. But something had shifted. Corinna's familial dynamic, which had shielded her for years, was unraveling. People were wondering why they'd remained silent, why they'd valued her comfort over others' suffering. Tuesday brought an unexpected visitor. Aunt Celine stood on our porch, visibly uncomfortable yet resolute. I owe you an apology, she murmured as I let her in. When Corinna said what she said about Lyra, I should have spoken up. I should have protected you both. Alara examined her closely. Why didn't you? Because I'm a coward, Celine explained simply. Because speaking up would have made me a target. Because it was easier to let you bear the weight of her cruelty than to share it. And now I realize that my silence made me complicit. That every time I let her cruelty slide, I enabled the next instance. I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry. It was the first genuine apology we had received. Not qualified, not excused, just an admission of failure and regret. I appreciate that, Alara responded thoughtfully. But you understand why we can't just go back to how things were. I do. Trust is earned. And I haven't earned yours. But I wanted you to know that some of us see it now. See what we allowed to happen. And we're sorry. After she went, Ilara and I sat with the weirdness of it all. The family wall of quiet, long unbreakable, was beginning to crack. It doesn't change what happened, Ilara stated. Doesn't bring Lyra back into a world where her memory is protected. No. But maybe it prevents the next Isolde, the next us. Wednesday was quiet. The social media storm had subsided, leaving an unsettling silence. Sides had been selected. Lines were drawn. The family, which had previously convened for every occasion, was now divided into camps. On Thursday, Junia received news. Malric and Corinna are hosting Thanksgiving, making a big deal about keeping traditions alive and not letting division win. It's clearly a loyalty test. Let them test, I instructed. We already know where we stand. Mom's not going, Junia added. Neither are Celine or Thaddeus's family. Looks like their guest list is getting smaller. Part of me felt sad because I remembered Malric teaching me how to throw a football and being present when each of my children was born. But the greater part, the part that had witnessed him prefer his wife's brutality to our misery, felt nothing but determination. Friday was the school's Thanksgiving program. We gathered in the auditorium and watched our children sing songs about appreciation and family. The irony was not lost on me. Family isn't always blood, Ilara said quietly, watching our son assist a classmate with their costume. Sometimes it's the people who choose to protect you instead of hurt you. She was correct. We were discovering something new as we lost our birth and marriage family, friends who checked in on a regular basis, parents from school who had heard about what had transpired and gave support without interfering. Junia called every day to make sure we were all right. That weekend we began organizing our own Thanksgiving. Junia would arrive, accompanied by Isolde and her family. Some buddies had nowhere else to go, a diverse group of people who recognized that family was about more than shared DNA. It'll be different, Ilara explained, preparing lists. Different isn't bad. No, different might actually be better. The youngsters were also adjusting. Our oldest had begun teaching chess to children at the community center. Kids who actually want to learn, he stated firmly. Our middle child had joined a book club. Our youngest was excelling in art classes. They were blooming without Corinna's incessant subtle comments, or the strain of family reunions where they walked on eggshells. I think Lyra would like this, our daughter commented one evening while working on her artwork. She always said Aunt Corinna was mean. Maybe she's happy we don't have to see her anymore. Again, from the mouth of babes. As November moved before Thanksgiving, the family divide grew stronger. Malric and Corinna surrounded themselves with relatives who were still committed to preserve the peace at all costs. We created something fresh with individuals who saw that certain costs were prohibitively high. Mom phoned the night before Thanksgiving. I wanted you to know I'm not going to Malric's, she told me. I'll be alone, but I can't sit at a table with someone who used my granddaughter's death as a weapon. You don't have to be alone, I caught myself saying. We have room. Ilara stared at me with surprise but not disapproval. Are you sure? Mom's voice sounded soft. I'm sure that Lyra would want her grandmother to have somewhere to go on Thanksgiving. I'm sure that choosing right, even late, still matters. But I'm also sure that this isn't a clean slate. It's a chance to do better. I understand. Thank you. Ilara reached out to take my hand after I had hung up. That was kind of you. She's trying. Late. But trying. And maybe showing her what real family looks like will help her understand what we lost when she stayed silent. Maybe. Thanksgiving arrived clean and clear. Our home was full with the aromas of cooking and the sounds of selected relatives. Junia arrived early to help cook. Isolde brought her kids, who played well with ours. Friends filled in the gaps, offering warmth based on choice rather than necessity. Mom arrived last, with her renowned sweet potato dish and seemed uneasy. Thank you for having me, she replied quietly. Thank you for choosing to be here, Ilara said. For choosing us. The supper was different from previous years, smaller in some ways but richer. The conversation flowed without the underlying tension of anticipating Corinna's next jab. The children laughed freely. People shared their stories without fear of being judged. This is nice, Mom commented at one point, glancing around the table. Different, but nice. Different can be good, our son explained. Like in chess. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a piece to win the game. What piece did we sacrifice? Our daughter inquired. The one who was harming us, he stated plainly. Mom's eyes flooded with tears. I'm sorry I didn't protect you, all of you, from that hurt. We know, Alara replied. But you're here now. That matters. As the evening came to a close and the guests began to go, Mom approached me. Malric called earlier while I was driving here. He wanted to know how I could choose them over him. What did you tell him? That I wasn't choosing sides. I was choosing right. He didn't understand. He might never understand. I know, and that breaks my heart. But not as much as knowing I failed you when you needed me most. She left with pledges to improve, to be better. Time will tell if she was able to follow through. That night, as Alara and I were cleaning up, she took a moment to look at Lyra's portrait on the mantel. I think she would have liked today, she explained. A house full of people who actually care about each other. No mean comments about her art. No comparisons to her cousins. Just love. Just love. We'd lost family, the sort you're born into, the kind you should be able to rely on. But we acquired something more. The type of family you select. The type who comes up not because they have to, but because they want to. They would never use a child's death as a weapon. The kind that recognized that some scars do not heal just because someone asks for forgiveness. The kind that understood that protection may take many forms, including distance and walls. Ilara's phone buzzed as we were getting ready for bed. She received a text from an unfamiliar phone number. Hello Ilara. This is Soren. I know my mother said something nasty about Lyra. I apologize. I miss playing with my cousins. Maybe when I'm older, we can be friends again. Alara presented me the text with tears in her eyes. Malric must not know he sent this, I told him. What do I say? The truth. That we miss him too. That none of this is his fault. That maybe someday, when he's older and can choose for himself, we'd love to see him again. She typed carefully and sweetly, because the children should not bear the consequences of their parents' misdeeds. Because Soren was also a victim. Of a mother who used cruelty as currency, and a father who allowed it. Send, she muttered, before turning off her phone. I can't handle any more tonight. As we lay in bed, the home quiet save for the sound of our children sleeping securely down the hall, I reflected on the journey from the pool party to the present moment. The ache was still present. The loss of Lyra was aggravated by the loss of family members we believed we could rely on. There was also something else, peace. The comfort of knowing we had chosen protection over politeness. The assurance that Lyra's memory would not be weaponized. The peace of knowing that our surviving children will grow up to realize that some things are more important than keeping terrible people comfortable. I love you, I whispered to Alara in the dark. I love you too, she said. And I love the family we're building. The one Lyra would be proud of. The weekend following Thanksgiving saw an unexpected development. Malric's oldest kid, Soren, arrived at our house Saturday morning, his bike hanging against the porch railing. Alara and I exchanged astonished glances through the window. Soren. I opened the door and looked down the street for Derek's car. Does your dad know you're here? The 13-year-old shuffled anxiously. He thinks I'm at the library, but I had to come. I need to talk to my cousin about something for the chess tournament next week. Alara appeared alongside me with a troubled expression. The child wasn't to blame for his mother's brutality, but having him here felt like crossing a boundary we had carefully drawn. Soren, we can't, I said. Please, he interjected, his voice cracking. I know what my mom said about Lyra. Dad told me I wasn't allowed to talk to you guys anymore, but it's not fair. None of this is fair. Our son ran after hearing the doorbell. He paused when he spotted his cousin, hope and doubt on his face. Can Soren come in? He gently inquired. Just for a little bit. Alara and I held a silent discussion with our eyes. Finally she nodded. 15 minutes, then you need to go home before your parents realize where you are. The boys went upstairs, and Alara began pacing. This is going to cause problems. I know Malric will accuse us of undermining his parenting. Probably. 20 minutes later, Soren returned downstairs, appearing lighter than when he had entered. Thank you, he replied simply. I'm sorry about everything. You don't need to apologize for things that aren't your fault, Alara softly reminded him. He went, and we held our breath, braced for the eventual explosion. It arrived 3 hours later. Malric's automobile roared into our driveway, and he arrived at our door before the engine completely died. How dare you? He snarled as I opened the door. going behind my back, encouraging my son to disobey me. We didn't encourage anything, I explained quietly. He showed up. We let him talk to his cousin for 20 minutes, that's all. You had no right to. To what? Let two kids maintain a friendship despite adult problems? You're right. How terrible of us. Corinna emerged from the automobile, her pregnancy in its latter stages. This is kidnapping, she said dramatically. We could call the police. Alara was following me. Please do. I'd love to explain to them why you're trying to prevent cousins from speaking to each other. Maybe mention what you said about our dead daughter while we're at it. Corinna's cheeks reddened. You're poisoning him against us. We didn't mention you at all, Alara remarked. Believe it or not, everything isn't about you. Everything's been about you since your kid died, Corinna yelled. Poor Alara, poor Callum, everyone walking on eggshells. Get off of our property, I whispered gently. Now. Malric grasped Corinna's arm. Let's go. No, I'm tired of them playing victim. Their daughter died because Alara wasn't watching her properly. And somehow that's everyone else's problem. Alara moved so quickly that I scarcely noticed it. Not to strike Corinna, she would never give her that satisfaction. But to take out her phone and begin recording. Say it again, Alara repeated, her voice dead calm. Tell everyone how our daughter's death is our fault. Let everyone see exactly who you are. Corinna understood her mistake. The few neighbors who were outside stopped to watch. Mrs. Alden from across the street had her phone out. Turn that off, Malric commanded. Public property, Mrs. Alden announced. You're making quite the scene. Malric hauled Corinna back to the car, but she couldn't resist one more shot. This is why nobody wants you at family events anymore. You're exhausting. Nobody wants us? Alara chuckled sharply. Check your Thanksgiving guest list again. They peeled away, leaving tire tracks on our driveway. Mrs. Alden walked up, shaking her head. I recorded the whole thing, she claimed. In case you need it. That woman is vile. The video was shared on social media within hours, even though we did not post it. We had no interest in the drama. But Mrs. Alden's daughter, who was visiting, uploaded it. The court of public opinion acted quickly and harshly. Corinna's carefully created picture of the victimized pregnant woman broke as witnesses saw her abuse-bereaved parents in their own driveway. Mom called that evening. I saw the video. I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. Soren just wanted to see his cousin, I explained tiredly. I know. Malric called me ranting about boundaries and respect. I told him the only disrespect I saw was from his wife. How'd that go? He hung up on me. But I'm done enabling him. Watching that video, seeing how she spoke to you both, I'm ashamed I ever defended her. We began attending a grieving support group meeting a month ago, and on Sunday, we found peace among other parents who knew the weight of loss. As we took our normal seats, a familiar face drew my attention. Isolde sat in the corner, holding tissues in her hand. Following the meeting, she approached us. I hope it's okay I'm here. Of course, Alara replied. I know it's been years since my loss, but seeing you two stand up to the family, it brought everything back. Grief doesn't have an expiration date, Alara hugged her. I've been in therapy, she said, working through not just the loss, but the betrayal. My therapist says the family trauma might actually be harder to process than the grief itself. Because death is final, I explained. But betrayal is a choice people make every day. Junia texted some news that afternoon. Malric and Corinna's baby had arrived early, a small girl. The family was ecstatic with the traditional congrats and hospital images. Do we say anything? Alara inquired, gazing at the announcement. We wish the baby health and happiness, I concluded. The child isn't responsible for her parents. We mailed a simple card to the hospital. There's no return address. It was the decent thing to do, even if they did not deserve it. Monday's mail included a surprise. Soren had written us a letter. His handwriting was neat and meticulous. Dear Uncle Callum and Aunt Alara. Thank you for allowing me to visit. I understand that caused problems, and I apologize. Mom and Dad are furious, but I don't care. You were always kind to me, and I miss our family. I think a lot about Lyra. She was quite hilarious and always shared her candy with me. I'm sorry my mother says terrible things. I informed her that it was wrong, but she stated I didn't understand because I was a child. However, I believe that children comprehend better occasionally. Love, Soren, Alara cried when reading it. That poor boy. He'll be okay, I said. He sees the truth. That's more than a lot of adults in our family can say. Tuesday was the anniversary of Lyra's first day of preschool. We had been dreading it. Another achievement she would never duplicate. Instead of staying at home and drowning in sadness, we brought her favorite flowers to the children's hospital where she died. The nurses remembered us. We think of her often, one added sadly. Such a bright light. We donated presents in Lyra's memory, saw sick children's cheeks light up, and discovered a weird calm in bringing joy where she had left us. Wednesday afternoon, our kid won the chess tournament. As he raised his prize and looked around, I noticed the instant he realized Soren wasn't present. His smile dimmed slightly, and it shattered my heart. Soren would be proud, I assured him. I know, he replied. I just wish he could be here. Sometimes loving someone means accepting you can't be in their life the way you want to, Alara admitted with a smile. But that doesn't make the love less real. On Thursday, there was another confrontation. Corinna's mother, who had been out of state throughout the pool party event, arrived at Alara's office. Security had to remove her out after she caused a disturbance by yelling about false charges and family damage. She actually said we made the entire thing up. Alara assured me that evening that Corinna would never say something that nasty in front of several witnesses. Apparently, we were all brainwashed, bribed or whatever. Mental gymnastics were impressive. Friday was quiet. Too quiet. The quiet before whatever storm Malric and Corinna had planned. We had learned their tendencies. When caught in wrongdoing, they'd retreat, regroup, and strike from a different angle. On Saturday morning, a new aspect emerged. A process server knocked on the door and handed me an envelope. Malric and Corinna sued us for slander, emotional distress and alienation of familial affection. They're actually suing us. Ilara stared at the papers, stunned. For telling the truth about what she said, I mumbled while reading the complaint. They're claiming the video Mrs. Alden posted has damaged Corinna's reputation and caused her postpartum depression. Her reputation was damaged by her own mouth, Alara told me. We spent the weekend consulting lawyers, recording everything, and preparing for a war we didn't want. The family group texting erupted with drama. Some people supported Malric and Corinna, saying we had gone too far. Others were appalled. They had consulted with lawyers about family matters. Junia called on Sunday night. Mom's beside herself. She's threatening to testify on your behalf about all the things Corinna said over the years. She'd do that? She's furious. Said if Malric wants to play legal games, she's got a list of witnesses to Corinna's cruelty going back a decade. On Monday, we met with our lawyer, Maribel, a bright woman with prior experience handling family conflicts. She went through everything, the films, the texts, and the documentation Alara had been keeping. They don't have a case, Maribel declared plainly. Truth is an absolute defense to defamation, and multiple witnesses heard her say those exact words about your daughter. If anything, you have grounds for a harassment suit against them. We don't want to sue anyone, Alara explained. We just want to be left alone. Sometimes the best defense is a strong offense, Maribel said. But that's your choice. Tuesday's mail included messages from family members, some sympathetic and some not. Uncle Thaddeus wrote that while he disagreed with the lawsuit, he believed we should have handled it quietly. Aunt Celine wrote a lengthy letter listing every hurtful thing Corinna had said to her over the years and offered to testify if necessary. It's tearing the whole family apart, Alara said as she read them. It was already torn, I told her. This just made it visible. On Wednesday our children returned home from school with questions. Soren had apparently been pulled away from activities he participated in with classmates who knew our children, such as the chess club, the science club, the art club, the drama club, the debate club, the math club, the history club, the English club, the music club, the sports club, the yearbook club, the newspaper 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 club, the yearbook club, the yearbook club, the newspaper 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 club, the yearbook club, the yearbook club, the newspaper 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 club, the yearbook club, the yearbook club, the yearbook club, the newspaper 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 club, the fair team, or anything that would put him in contact with his cousins. Our daughter inquired, "Why can't we see Soren anymore? Did we do something wrong?" "No, sweetheart. Sometimes adults make choices that hurt kids, even when the kids didn't do anything wrong." "That's stupid," she said, with the clarity that only children have. "Yes," Alara replied. "It is." Thursday presented an unexpected development. Malric arrived alone, looking haggard. I almost didn't open the door, but something about his gaze made me pause. "I'm not here to fight," he replied immediately. I need to talk. Please." Against my better judgment, I stepped onto the porch and shut the door behind me. "You're suing us, Malric. What could we possibly have to talk about?" "That was Corinna's idea. Her mother's, actually. They're convinced you're trying to destroy our family. We're trying to protect ours." He collapsed against the porch rail. "Soren won't talk to me. He says I'm a coward for not standing up to his mother. My own son thinks I'm a coward. Aren't you?" The words hovered between us. Malric flinched but did not dispute it. I know what she said was wrong, he confessed gently. I knew it the moment the words left her mouth. But she's my wife. The mother of my children. What was I supposed to do? Protect the victims instead of the bully. Tell the truth instead of making excuses. Choose right over easy. Easy, he said, laughing bitterly. You think any of this has been easy? My marriage is falling apart. My son hates me. My mother barely speaks to me. The baby won't stop crying, and Corinna just gets angrier and angrier. That's not our fault, Malric. I know, he replied. And for the first time since that pool party, he sounded like my brother. I know none of this is your fault. Lyra dying wasn't your fault. Corinna saying what she said wasn't your fault. Me being too weak to stop her, that's on me, so drop the lawsuit. I can't. Corinna's mother hired the lawyer. If I back out now. He took a breath. If you back out now, what? Corinna will be angry. She's already angry. You'll have marital problems? You already have them. You'll have to choose between your wife and your integrity. That choice was made at the pool party. He went without saying anything else, but I observed him sit in his car for 10 minutes before driving away. Alara had watched through the window. Do you think he'll do the right thing? No, I answered honestly. But at least he knows what the right thing is. That's more than I expected. Friday, our attorney phoned. They want to settle. Drop the lawsuit in exchange for a mutual no-contact agreement. We're already out of contact, Alara noted. This would make it legally binding. Neither party contacts the other, including through third parties or social media. Violation would result in legal consequences. What about the kids, Soren? The agreement would include minors until they reach 18. Alara and I talked about it that evening. It felt like defeat, allowing them to utilize the legal system to reinforce what their cruelty had caused. However, it also represented protection, a paper shield against future persecution. Lyra would want us to be safe, Alara added last. Even if it means making it official that her cousins can't see each other. Saturday, we signed the paperwork. It was finished. The family that had previously gathered for every holiday, birthday and celebration, was now legally required to remain apart. The lawyer stated that these agreements rarely held up if both couples agreed to reconcile, but we knew that would never happen. Some bridges, once burned, produced too much ash to repair. Lyra celebrated her birthday on Sunday. She would have been 5. We went to her burial as a family, carrying her favorite flowers and new toys, which we later donated to the hospital. Our surviving children had written her letters, which they read aloud with trembling but unbroken voices. I got an A on my science project, our middle child announced. You would have liked it, it was about butterflies. I won the chess tournament, our oldest explained. I used the move you always said looked like a horsey dance. I painted you a picture, our youngest remarked, placing a brightly colored canvas against the headstone. It's our family, and you're the son because you're watching over us. Ilara and I hugged as our children told their sister about their life, how much they missed her, and how they would always remember her. It was simultaneously heartbreaking and healing. As we drove home that evening, our son said, "Do you think Lyra knows about everything that happened?" I believe Lyra understands we protected her memory, Ilara added. That when someone tried to use her against us, we stood up and said, "No, that's what matters." And we discovered who truly loves us, our daughter said, with the astounding understanding that children may possess. The people who stayed. Monday morning began with the regular routine, school lunches, business emails, and the rhythm of life continuing despite the legal documents that officially separated our extended family. But something had shifted. The continual dread of waiting for the next attack had passed. The legal arrangement, as cold and official as it was, brought finality. "It's really over," Ilara exclaimed as we watched the students board the school bus. "The conflict is over," I clarified. "The grief, the growth, the healing, that continues. But without them making it harder." "Without them making it harder," I agreed. My phone rang. Junia texted that Mom was planning a small Christmas celebration for the family who chose love over harshness. Isolde would be there, as would several cousins who had discreetly supported us, and the family we were forming from the ashes of the one we had lost. As I prepared to leave for work, I remembered Soren's letter, which was stashed in my desk drawer. Regarding Malric's moment of honesty on our porch. Alara's workplace contains rumors about Corinna's mother yelling. Mom finally found her courage, Too late to spare the agony, but not too late to avoid future harm. Some stories do not conclude with reconciliation. Sometimes the happy ending is in the separation, in the limits that keep the vulnerable safe from the cruel. Family isn't only about blood, law, or obligation. It can also be about who shows up when it's difficult. That evening we dined with the Aldens. Mrs. Alden had unexpectedly become an ally, her grandmotherly presence soothing our children as they missed their extended family. As we chuckled at her stories and saw our children play with her grandchildren, I realized we weren't simply getting by without our blood family, we were prospering. "You know what?" Ilara asked as we headed home, our kids running ahead. "I think we're going to be okay." "We are," I replied, grasping her hand. "We really are." 6 months later, we learned through our lawyer that Malric and Corinna had divorced. The facts were complicated, involving custody disputes and further legal drama. Soren asked his school counselor if he might write to us when he turned 18. We also saved that letter, which promised a future in which children might choose their own family. Our grief support group became like a second family. Our children thrived without continual criticism. Ilara and I grew stronger together, connected by mutual grief and courage. We discovered that sometimes losing family means finding your tribe. That safeguarding your children sometimes entails teaching them that love has boundaries. That honoring the dead often requires standing up to the living. Lyra's memory lived on, not as a weapon to harm us, but as a beacon that showed us who deserved to share our journey forward. In the end, the best gift Mom could have given us was the clarity to realize that family is defined by who relates to you, with compassion, respect, and love. Stepmom threatened to cut us off from our 2 grandkids unless we changed our will to include her 2 children, but my son discovered her emails first. I'm Catherine, 62, and I've been married to Edward, 64, for more than 35 years. We met at college and have been inseparable ever since. Our road has not always been simple, but we have weathered each storm together. Our son Jonathan, 38, recently married his second wife, Vanessa, 36. Jonathan has 2 children from his previous marriage. A 14-year-old daughter named Chloe, and a 12-year-old boy called Noah. They are great children, and we have been highly involved in their lives since birth. Vanessa has 2 children from her former marriage, Caleb, a 10-year-old boy, and Grace, an 8-year-old daughter. Laura, Jonathan's first wife, was a beautiful woman. We considered her a daughter, not only a daughter-in-law. She was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune illness soon after Noah's birth. Despite the difficulties, she stayed optimistic and was an excellent mother. Unfortunately, she died 6 years ago from consequences from her disease. It was a tragic loss for our family, particularly Jonathan and the children. The years after Laura's death were trying. Jonathan poured himself into his profession and children, scarcely leaving time for himself. We tried our best to help him, frequently staying over to help with the kids or having them at our house so Jonathan could relax. It was painful to see our kids struggle, but we were pleased of how he managed to stay strong for Chloe and Noah. About 3 years ago, Jonathan resumed dating. He was hesitant at first, feeling bad about moving on, but we pushed him. That's when he met Vanessa via a mutual friend. When he presented her to us, we hoped that he had found happiness again. Vanessa appeared pleasant enough, albeit a little reserved. She didn't make much of an effort to get to know us, but we assumed it was due to anxieties and the pressure of meeting her new partner's family. Vanessa's children, on the other hand, were quite the handful. Caleb was frequently unpleasant and disruptive at family events, while Grace had a habit of throwing tantrums when things didn't go her way. We tried not to judge, figuring they were still adjusting to their new family dynamics. However, as time passed and their behavior did not change, we were unable to ignore the glaring contrast between them and our well-behaved grandchildren. Edward and I have been lucky enough to collect a significant amount of wealth over the years. Edward had a good banking profession, while I had a modest but profitable interior design business. We've always been fiscally responsible, investing carefully and living below our means. We have always intended to leave everything to Jonathan and our grandchildren, Chloe and Noah. We never considered putting Vanessa or her children in our will because we didn't know them well and didn't feel close to them. Vanessa requested a private meeting with Edward and me last week. Jonathan was on a business trip, so we thought she may be interested in discussing arrangements for his forthcoming birthday. We asked her over for tea, hoping to bond with our daughter-in-law. However, the debate took a surprising and unpleasant turn. Vanessa began by stating that she had overheard Jonathan and I discussing our will over the phone. It's true that I called Jonathan to discuss amending our will, since we had recently purchased some new property and wanted to make sure everything was in order. I was shocked Vanessa was listening in on the chat, but I said nothing. She then told us that Jonathan was unhappy with the current arrangement and wanted us to include Vanessa's children in the inheritance. According to her, Jonathan believed it was unjust to exclude them but was worried of appearing ungrateful if he brought it up himself. This struck me as weird, given that Jonathan has always been upfront and honest with us about everything. What stunned us even more was Vanessa's threat to limit our access to Chloe and Noah if we did not comply with her requests. She said it was all Jonathan's idea, and he wholeheartedly supported her viewpoint. The notion that our son would use his children as negotiating chips was entirely out of character, and plain ridiculous. Edward and I were stunned to silence. We have always had a tight relationship with Jonathan, and this did not seem like him at all. He's always been straightforward in his interactions with us, never hesitant to express his thoughts or worries. The idea of him employing Vanessa as a courier for something so significant seemed extremely implausible. Furthermore, the threat of keeping our grandchildren away from us was profoundly upsetting. Chloe and Noah have been an important part of our lives since their birth. We've been there for every milestone, school play, and sporting event. The thought of being cut off from them was painful. We didn't want to accuse Vanessa of lying openly, so we politely said we'd think about it and get back to her. As soon as she left, we called Jonathan to confirm her accusations. He was in the middle of a conference but stepped out to accept our call, hearing the desperation in our voices. When we told Jonathan about the conversation, he was astonished and outraged. He told us that he had never mentioned anything of the such and was shocked that Vanessa would go behind his back like this. He had no idea whence she got the impression that he was dissatisfied with our decision or that he wanted her children included. Jonathan immediately requested that we keep Chloe and Noah with us until he returned from his trip and could resolve things with Vanessa. We gladly accepted, and the kids have stayed with us ever since. They were initially pleased about the surprise sleepover at Grandma and Grandpa's house, but now they're wondering why they haven't left yet. It's been a week, and the problem has only worsened. Jonathan has tried to reason with Vanessa, but she refuses to give in. She's given him an ultimatum. Convince us to change our minds, or choose between her and us. Jonathan is saddened, caught between his feelings for Vanessa and his commitment to us and his children. Edward and I both feel bad about the situation. We never meant to cause family conflict with our inheritance plans. We've always viewed our wealth as a means of securing the future of our sons and grandchildren, rather than a source of contention. At the same time, we are hurt and angered that Vanessa would try to manipulate us and jeopardize our relationship with our son and grandchildren. We are at a loss on what to do. Should we hold firm or give in to Vanessa's requests for the sake of family harmony? Is there a compromise we aren't seeing? The notion of losing our relationship with Jonathan and our grandkids is devastating, but being pressured into rewriting our will is equally unsettling. I'm hoping to get some outside perspective on this issue. Have we unintentionally been unkind to Vanessa and her children? Should we have made a bigger effort to involve them in our family? Or are we justified in feeling cheated and manipulated? Any suggestions on how to get through this difficult position would be greatly appreciated. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and I'd want to thank everyone for their kind words and advice. It's been reassuring to hear that many of you believe we're not in the wrong here. Unfortunately, things have only gotten worse, and I felt compelled to inform you all of the situation. Jonathan has been staying with us, along with Chloe and Noah. He took an extended leave of absence from work to deal with his family crisis, which I understand was not an easy decision for him. Jonathan has always been dedicated to his job, often working long hours to support his family. Seeing him put his career on wait like this emphasizes how bad the situation has become. He's been trying to work things out with Vanessa, but she won't budge from her demands. She continues to insist that we include her children in our will, or she will ensure that we never see Chloe and Noah again. It's evident now that this was never about what Jonathan desired, but rather Vanessa's notion. Jonathan is clearly feeling the effects of stress. He has lost weight, is having difficulties sleeping, and appears to be always on edge. It breaks our hearts to see him this way. Edward and I have been doing our best to assist him by cooking his favorite dishes and attempting to create a peaceful environment at home. However, it's evident that the situation is wearing him down. Chloe and Noah are also picking up on the tension, despite our best efforts to shelter them from the dispute. Chloe, the more sensitive of the two, has been silent and reclusive recently. Noah, on the other hand, has started acting out in school, which has never happened before. We had to attend a parent-teacher meeting to discuss his behavior, which exacerbated Jonathan's stress. Vanessa has intensified her tactics. She's been constantly calling and texting Jonathan, alternating between guilt-tripping him and making new threats. She's even been spreading stories among their mutual friends that we're attempting to dissolve their marriage because we never accepted her or her children. This could not be further from the truth. but it is causing Jonathan a great deal of distress. He has always cherished his connections, and the prospect of losing them over this is really troubling him. What's more disturbing is that Vanessa has begun to include her children in this issue. According to Jonathan, she has been telling Caleb and Grace that we do not love them and do not want them in our family. It's a nasty thing to do to young children, and we're concerned about the emotional manipulation she's capable of. Edward and I are upset with Vanessa's actions, but we are trying to remain calm for Jonathan's sake. We've suggested that he consult with a lawyer to better understand his options, particularly about custody of Chloe and Noah. Given Vanessa's previous threats, we're concerned that she'll use them as puppets in this power play. Jonathan is beginning to realize that his marriage may not be salvageable. He admitted to us that he had previously ignored most of Vanessa's manipulative conduct, either making excuses for her or giving in to keep the peace. This event has made him realize her actual nature. He told a story from early in their relationship that now appears like a red sign. Vanessa reportedly pressed him into purchasing an expensive car that they couldn't afford, arguing that it was vital to maintain appearances in their area. Jonathan gave in to avoid a fight, although it had strained their finances for months. Looking back, he recognizes it as the start of a pattern of manipulation that he had overlooked due to his love for her. We're doing our best to help Jonathan and the kids get through this terrible period. We've made it obvious that our home is always open to them, regardless of what happens. We've set up Jonathan's guest room and created an area in the study for the kids to complete homework. It's a tight fit, but we're making it work. We're also looking into family counseling options to help Chloe and Noah deal with the stress of another possible family breakdown. They're still grieving the loss of their mother, and the prospect of them going through another huge upheaval hurts our hearts. We haven't changed anything about our will and have no plans to do so. Vanessa's actions have further strengthened our resolve to maintain our assets inside our immediate family. We're even considering establishing a trust for Chloe and Noah to protect their future security, regardless of what happens between Jonathan and Vanessa. Edward and I have had lengthy discussions about how we came to this point. We can't help but think what we could have done differently. Should we have been more accommodating of Vanessa and her children? Did we unintentionally make them feel like outsiders? But then we remember how many times we asked them to family dinners, how many birthdays we celebrated together, and how hard we worked to include them in our lives. It's difficult not to feel that no matter what we did, it wouldn't have been enough for Vanessa. This whole circumstance has caused us to focus on our own marriage and the principles we've attempted to inculcate in our children. We have always valued honesty, integrity, and putting family first. Seeing Vanessa's acts has further increased our desire to uphold these beliefs. I'll keep you all updated as the issue progresses. Thank you again for your help and advice. It means more than you realize at this tough time. Update 2. It has been another week, and things have finally gotten to a head. Jonathan has chosen to file a divorce from Vanessa. He made this decision after learning that Vanessa had planned this deception for months, even before their wedding. It all began when Jonathan decided to review some old files on their shared home computer. He was searching for some tax paperwork when he came across a folder containing Vanessa's emails. Normally, he would have respected her privacy, but the subject line drew his attention: plan to safeguard the inheritance. Jonathan's world completely changed when he read through the emails. Vanessa had been prying through his personal records and discovered details regarding our family's holdings. She saw an opportunity to provide a stable financial future for her children and began planning how to incorporate them in our will. The emails went back to before their wedding. Vanessa had asked friends for guidance on how to exploit the situation. She had stated her strategy of first establishing herself as a loving wife and stepmother, then gently introducing the concept of include her children in our will. If it didn't work, she had other options, such as emotional manipulation and threats. Vanessa made no attempt to reject the evidence presented to her by Jonathan. Instead, she was upset that he had violated her privacy by reading her correspondence. She then issued him an ultimatum: either he persuades us to alter our minds, or she would make the divorce as ugly and painful as possible. That was the final straw for Jonathan. He packed up his and the kids' essential stuff and relocated them all to our home permanently. He's already spoken with a lawyer and begun the divorce process. We're all still stunned at how rapidly everything has unraveled. Chloe and Noah are understandably upset and puzzled. This is the second time they've experienced serious family turmoil, and it's taking a toll. Chloe has been increasingly introverted, spending hours alone in her room. Noah, on the other hand, has been having nightmares, and has begun to exhibit symptoms of separation anxiety, not wanting Jonathan to leave his sight. We are doing our best to give them with a secure and loving atmosphere, but we understand that it will take time for them to adjust to yet another huge shift in their lives. We've established a pattern to offer them a feeling of normalcy, including family dinners every night, schoolwork assistance, and weekend trips to the park or the cinema. Vanessa has alternated between sending angry messages and appealing for Jonathan to return. She has threatened to battle for custody of Chloe and Noah, even though she has no legal right to them. Jonathan's lawyer told us that her threats were false, but they are still creating a lot of stress. Edward and I are entirely behind Jonathan during this process. We're assisting with the children, offering emotional support, and paying his legal bills. We've made it obvious to him that he and the children can stay with us for as long as they need. Our house is currently full, but we see this as a chance to spend more quality time with our family. The entire process has brought our family closer together. We're all rallying around Jonathan and the kids, determined to face this challenge together. It won't be easy, but we're convinced that we're doing the right thing by standing firm against Vanessa's deceptive techniques. Jonathan has begun to share out more about his connection with Vanessa. He said that there were early indications of her dominating behavior, but he discounted them as her being passionate or particular. He regrets not recognizing these red signs for what they were, but we have convinced him that hindsight is 20/20 and he should not blame himself. We've also had some unpleasant discussions regarding Laura, Jonathan's late first wife. Chloe and Noah have begun asking more questions about their mother, possibly seeking consolation in recollections of happier times. It's heartbreaking, but we've been sharing tales and going through old photo albums together. We want the kids to understand that it is okay to talk about Laura and miss her. I'll provide another update when there are substantial changes in the divorce proceedings. Thank you for your ongoing support and advice. It has been a source of strength for our family throughout this difficult period. Update 3. It's been a month since my last post, so I wanted to discuss the most recent changes in our family situation. The divorce proceedings between Jonathan and Vanessa are well underway, and it has been a difficult time for everyone involved. Vanessa, true to her word, is making the divorce as tough as possible. She is disputing everything from asset distribution to Chloe and Noah's parenting arrangement. Despite the fact that she has no legal claim to the children, she claims to be a mother figure to them and thus deserves visitation rights. It's a tough situation, but Jonathan remains steadfast in his determination to safeguard his children. Fortunately, Jonathan's attorney is skilled and has handled the case brilliantly. They have gathered extensive proof of Vanessa's deceptive actions, including emails in which she detailed her ambitions to have her children included in our will. This has considerably helped Jonathan's case. Chloe and Noah have struggled with the circumstances, but they have demonstrated tremendous perseverance. We've enrolled them in counseling to assist them deal with their emotions and the changes in their lives. It appears to be helping, as they are gradually opening up more about their emotions. Chloe has started keeping a notebook, which her therapist describes as a beneficial way for her to express herself. Noah joined a juvenile sports team, which has helped him channel his energy and emotions. Jonathan is doing well now that he has taken definite action. The hardship of the divorce proceedings continues to take its toll, but he is no longer divided between his allegiance to us and his misdirected love for Vanessa. He is focused on safeguarding his children and repairing his life. We've caught hints of the old Jonathan returning. He even told a joke the other day, which we hadn't heard in months. Edward and I have done everything we can to help our family through this crisis. We've been caring for the kids while Jonathan attends meetings with his lawyer or court appearances. We've also been assisting Jonathan with looking for a new place to live, as he believes it is critical to establish a new home for himself and his children after the divorce is finalized. One benefit of this scenario is that it has brought our family closer together. Despite the chaos, we're spending more time with Jonathan and our grandchildren, starting new traditions, and making great memories. We began hosting weekly game nights, which have become a favorite among all of us. It's lovely to watch Chloe and Noah laughing and acting like kids again during these times. We've also taken precautions to secure our assets and ensure Chloe and Noah's future safety. Our lawyer has assisted us in establishing a trust for the children, which will protect them even if Vanessa attempts to fight our will in the future. It gives us peace of mind knowing that whatever happens, our grandchildren's futures are secure. Vanessa's children, Caleb and Grace, have been caught in the center of the chaos. We grieve for them because they are innocent in all of this. Jonathan has voiced concern for their well-being, having witnessed firsthand how tough it is for children to go through divorce. He's considering contacting Vanessa's ex-husband to assure the children's well-being during this difficult time. As tough as this experience has been, we remain cautiously optimistic about the future. We know there will be more problems ahead, especially as the divorce proceedings progress, but we will face them together as a family. Jonathan has resumed discussions about his future intentions, including a career shift he has always desired and the potential of dating again someday, albeit this is still a long way off. Chloe and Noah are gradually adjusting to their new normal. They've spent more time with their pals, which has been beneficial for them. Chloe is even talking about joining the school drama club next year, which she was previously too bashful to do. Noah's grades, which had dipped during the first upheaval, are now improving again. For Edward and myself, this event has strengthened our bond. We have been each other's rock during this journey, and I am more grateful than ever for his constant presence and steadfast support. My family kicked me out because my sister falsely accused me of stealing her engagement ring. 3 years later, they discovered it in the garbage disposal. I never imagined I'd be telling this story, but here goes. I'm Elliot, 26 years old, and 3 years ago my life was flipped upside down by a false charge made by my older sister, Gemma, 29. I grew up in a little Ohio town with my parents, John, 55M, and Lisa, 53F, and my sister, Gemma. We lived in a modest 2-story house that my parents purchased when they first married. It was not fancy, but it was home. My father worked as a high school math teacher, and my mother was a nurse at the local hospital. They weren't wealthy, but they made sure we got all we needed. Growing up, Gemma and I were quite close. We'd spend hours playing in our backyard, climbing the ancient oak tree and inventing complicated games. She was always the leader, making up the rules and plots, while I was content to follow along. As we grew older, however, things began to alter. Gemma was always an overachiever. She was the top of her class, captain of the debate team, and appeared to thrive in whatever she tried. In contrast, I was more laid back. I performed okay in school, but I was never as motivated as Gemma. As we approached our adolescence, this disparity began to erode our relationship. By the time Gemma left for college, we had grown apart. She attended a prominent university on a scholarship, whilst I stayed local and attended community college. I didn't know what I wanted to accomplish with my life, so I took a range of classes to figure it out. Gemma relocated to the city after graduating from college and began working at a large marketing agency. She'd return home for holidays and occasional weekends, full of stories about her fascinating life and excellent profession. I couldn't help feeling inferior in contrast. I was still living at home, working part-time at the local grocery shop, and trying to figure out my next step. Despite our differences, I always assumed Gemma and I were fine. We weren't as close as we had were, but I assumed it was just part of growing up. I had no idea how quickly everything might fall apart. Gemma and her boyfriend, Tom, 31M, were engaged 3 years ago. They had been dating for 2 years, and everyone was ecstatic. Tom was a lawyer from a wealthy family, and my parents idolized him. He proposed with a stunning diamond ring that has been in his family for generations. Gemma was overjoyed and couldn't stop showing it off to everyone. The engagement celebration was a large occasion. My parents brought what seemed like the entire town to our house to celebrate. I recall feeling a little out of place among the rich people Gemma and Tom had invited from the city. I remained close to my old high school pals who were still in town, feeling more at ease with them than with Gemma's sophisticated set. A month after the engagement, all hell broke out. It was Tuesday afternoon and I had the day off work. I was in my room, playing video games and enjoying the quiet house. Gemma was visiting for a week, taking some time off work to begin arranging the wedding with our mother. I heard Gemma return home from a shopping trip with Mom. They were talking and laughing downstairs. I didn't think much about it and returned to my game. Around an hour later, I heard Gemma scream. I ran downstairs to check what was going on, and she accused me of taking her engagement ring. She explained that she took it off while doing dishes and left it on the kitchen counter. When she returned to grab it, it was gone. I was stunned and quickly denied taking it, but Gemma refused to listen. She kept shrieking that I was the only other one in the home, so it must have been me. She mentioned how I was always jealous of her success and how I probably wanted to sell the ring so I could finally move out and accomplish something with my life. Our parents arrived home in the midst of the chaos, and Gemma recounted her version of events. To my horror, they believed her wholeheartedly. My mother began to cry, questioning how I could have done such a thing to my own sister. My father merely looked at me with disappointment in his eyes. They began searching my room and turned everything upside down. They didn't find the ring, but they did discover some money I had saved from my job at the supermarket. It wasn't much, maybe a few hundred, but Gemma quickly picked up on it, claiming I must have sold the ring and that's where the money came from. I tried to explain that I had been saving for months and was considering taking some classes at the local community college, but no one listened. The following few days were a nightmare. My parents and Gemma repeatedly pressed me to confess and return the ring. They threatened to contact the police if I did not come clean. I was afraid and felt entirely alone. Nobody in my family believed me, and I was treated like a criminal in my own home. I tried contacting several of my pals, but the majority of them had moved away after high school. The few who remained in town appeared unwilling to become engaged in family strife. I felt more alone than ever. After a week of relentless accusations and threats, my parents made a decision that would alter my life forever. They told me I needed to go. They said they couldn't trust me longer and that I was putting shame on the family. They gave me 2 days to pack my belongings and leave. I was devastated. I had nowhere to go and didn't know what to do. My best buddy from high school, Ryan, 26M, who had recently returned to town after serving in the army, offered to let me rest on his couch for a time. But I knew I couldn't stay there long. His apartment was small, and he was still getting back on his feet. I packed everything I could into a backpack and an old duffel bag, including clothes, books, my laptop, and a few memories from brighter times. As I was leaving, I noticed Gemma eyeing me from her old bedroom window. I thought I caught a glint of doubt in her eyes, but she quickly turned aside. Walking out of that house, the only one I'd ever known, was the most difficult thing I had ever done. I felt deceived and abandoned by those who were supposed to love me completely. The saddest part was that I had done nothing wrong. For the next 2 months, I alternated between Ryan's couch and cheap motels as I could afford them. I took on any odd jobs I could find to make ends meet. I've worked as a dishwasher, dog walker, and even spent a few weeks on a construction job. It was a challenge, but I was determined to prove my innocence and succeed on my own. Eventually, I got a solid job at a warehouse on the outskirts of town. The job was hard, the hours were long, but the pay was consistent. The salary wasn't spectacular, but it allowed me to rent a modest room in a shared house with some other warehouse workers. I gradually began rebuilding my life, but the grief of what had happened never went away. I'd lie awake at night, repeating the events in my memory and wondering how they had gone so wrong. How could my family have turned against me so quickly? How could Gemma, who had grown up with me and knew me better than anyone else, believe I would do such a thing? I cut all communication with my family. They attempted to contact me several times in the beginning. My mother would leave heartfelt voicemails urging me to come home and make things right. My father sent a few terse text messages indicating we needed to discuss. Gemma did show up at the warehouse once, but I declined to see her. I couldn't bear to speak with them after what they had done. They were no longer my family. For 3 years this was how I lived. I made new friends at work and in my shared home. We'd hang out after shifts, drink beer, and watch games. It wasn't the life I had envisioned for myself, but it was mine, and I had created it from scratch. I worked hard and was even promoted to shift supervisor at the warehouse. I started attending online classes to learn business management. I was slowly deciding what I wanted to accomplish with my life. But there was always a part of me that was outraged and wounded by what had occurred. I missed my previous life and family, but I couldn't forgive them for not believing me. Every holiday season was challenging. When I saw families shopping together or heard Christmas music, I felt a sense of sadness for what I had lost. Then last week, I received an unexpected email from my father. The subject line simply stated, "We need to talk." The message was brief, stating that they needed to meet with me immediately and that it was regarding the ring incident. At first, I was tempted to dismiss it, as I did with all of their previous attempts to reach me. But something made me hesitate. Maybe it was curiosity. Or maybe a small part of me still wanted a conclusion. After arguing with myself for hours, I decided to listen to them. I called my father, and what he said left me stunned. The ring had been found. Gemma had accidentally knocked it into the garbage disposal while doing the dishes. She only recognized this a few days ago, when the disposal began making unusual noises and they summoned a plumber to inspect it. My father claimed Gemma was upset when she understood what had transpired and that I had been telling the truth all along. He stated they all felt bad about what they had done to me and wanted to make things right. I hung up the phone, experiencing a swirl of emotions. On the one hand, I felt vindicated. I had always told the truth and now everyone knew it. However, I was angry. I was outraged that it took 3 years to find out the truth, that I had missed so much time with my family, and that I had fought alone for so long when I had done nothing wrong. Now I'm at a crossroads. My family wants me to return home. They claim they want to make things right. Gemma has been phoning and messaging nonstop, asking for forgiveness. But I'm not certain I can forgive them. They pushed me out without hesitation. Chose to think the worst of me, and left me to fend for myself for 3 years. Part of me wants to send them all to hell and let them deal with the shame of what they did to me. But another part of me misses my previous life and wonders whether there is a way to rebuild what we've lost. I do not know what to do. Should I give them an opportunity to make amends, or should I continue living the life I've created for myself without them? I'm torn and could appreciate some outside insight on this whole situation. Update 1. It's been a week since my previous post, and a lot has happened. I'd want to thank everyone for their advice and support. It truly helped me go through my emotions and figure out what to do. After much debate, I chose to meet with my family. I believed I owed it to myself to confront them and seek closure, even if I wasn't convinced about reconciliation. We decided to meet in a neutral site, a modest coffee shop in the next town over. I chose it because it was far enough from our hometown that we wouldn't run across anyone we knew, yet close enough that anyone could get there without too much effort. I was quite nervous on the day of the meeting. I hadn't seen my family in 3 years, and I wasn't sure what to expect. I arrived at the coffee shop early and chose a table in the corner where we could enjoy some solitude. When they walked in, it was like a hit in the belly. Seeing them after 3 years was intense. My mother burst into tears the moment she saw me. She was older than I remembered, with more gray hair and creases around her eyes. My father appeared weary and tired, his shoulders drooping as if he were carrying a huge weight. Gemma couldn't look me in the eye at first. She appeared smaller and less confident than the sister I recalled. We sat down, and for a time, no one knew what to say. They all started talking at once, with apologies falling out. My parents said they had failed as parents by not trusting me and kicking me out. They admitted that they had regretted their decision every day since, but pride and humiliation had prevented them from reaching out sooner. My father, who had always been a man of few words, talked for hours about how he had repeated those days in his head, trying to figure out how he could have been so blind. He claimed he had always prided himself on being fair and reasonable, but that emotion had clouded his judgment when it counted the most. My mother, through tears, told me how she had preserved my room exactly as I had left it, hoping that one day I would return. She stated she would wake up in the middle of the night, thinking she had heard me coming home, only to realize what had transpired. Gemma burst into tears, stating she would never forgive herself for accusing me and damaging our relationship. She mentioned how she had always looked up to me when we were youngsters, even though I was younger. She admitted that she had been so preoccupied with her own life and troubles that she had lost sight of what was truly important. As they talked, memories of our childhood came flooding back. I remembered how Gemma stuck up for me when I was bullied in middle school. I reflected on all the times we had laughed together, exchanged secrets, and supported each other during difficult times. It made the betrayal hurt even more, but it also reminded me of the fantastic times we'd had. I heard everything they said, but I couldn't bring myself to forgive them just yet. The anguish and resentment from the previous 3 years were still too raw. I informed them that I needed time to comprehend things. They appeared to comprehend and did not push for more. My mom wanted to hug me before we went, but I backed away. I wasn't prepared for that kind of closeness yet. The hurt look on her face almost convinced me to change my decision, but I remained firm. I needed to protect myself emotionally. After the meeting, I returned to my apartment and carefully considered what I wanted. Did I want to go back to my previous life? Can I ever trust them again? Was it worth attempting to repair our relationship? I recognized that, while I missed having a family, I had also developed significantly in the previous 3 years. I had become self-sufficient, robust, and had created a life for myself from scratch. I wasn't the same person they'd kicked out 3 years before. I reflected about my warehouse work, my online education, and the friends I'd made. I had worked hard to reach where I was, and I was pleased with what I had accomplished on my own. The thought of abandoning that and returning to my old life felt awful. At the same time, I couldn't deny that seeing my family had triggered a variety of feelings. Despite everything, I still loved and missed them. I wondered if I could have a relationship with them while still keeping my independence. After a few days of deliberation, I reached a decision. I called my parents and explained that while I appreciated their apology, I was not yet ready to fully reconcile. I informed them that I needed more time and space to heal. I also established some boundaries. I indicated I was willing to maintain minimal contact with them, but I wasn't going back home or pretending nothing had occurred. I told them that if we were to continue our connection, it had to be on my terms. They expressed disappointment but said they understood. They promised to respect my boundaries and allow me the time I needed. My mother asked if she might phone me once a week to check in, and I agreed, assuming it would be a nice approach to gradually re-establish trust. As for Gemma, I've decided to keep my distance for now. Her actions had affected me the most, and I wasn't ready to forgive her just yet. I told her I needed more time before I could consider having another relationship with her. She was upset, but explained that she understood and would wait until I was ready. It's been a rough week, with many emotional highs and lows. I've had moments when I questioned my decision, wondering if I'm being too harsh or if I'm passing up an opportunity to reunite with my family. But then I recall how quickly they turned on me, and I realize I'm doing the right thing by taking things slowly. I've also started researching therapeutic possibilities. Many of you suggested it in the comments, and I believe it would be beneficial to have a professional to speak with while I navigate this tricky situation. I've never been to therapy before, so I'm a little nervous, but I think it could be beneficial to me. For the time being, my primary focus is on my job and studies. I have a huge project coming up at work, and I'm determined not to let all of this family drama distract me from my goals. I am also thinking about moving to a better apartment. I've been saving, and I think I'm ready for a place of my own without roommates. Thank you again for your support. It's comforting to know that there are individuals out there who understand and care, even if we've never met. I'll provide an update if anything substantial changes. Update 2. It's been almost a month since my last update, and I'd like to share some developments. I've been sticking to the boundaries I've established with my family. We've had a few phone calls and text messages, but nothing particularly intense. It's been okay, awkward at times, but not as painful as I expected. My parents have mostly respected my wishes. They check in every now and then, but they don't ask for more than I'm prepared to provide. I can tell they are working hard to rebuild trust, but it is a slow process. My mother calls once a week, as we promised. These calls were strained at first, with extended silences, but they are becoming easier. We usually discuss neutral issues, such as her employment at the hospital, the weather, and my online education. It's not much, but it's a beginning. My father has been sending me short emails, usually simply to check in or share something he thinks I'd be interested in. Last week, he forwarded me an article about a new business launching in our hometown. It was a little gesture, but it reminded me of how he would clip newspaper stories for me. When I was younger, Gemma struggled with the barrier I'd created between us. She sent me many long, emotional texts apologizing and pleading for the opportunity to make things right. I responded simply, stating that I need more time. It's difficult, but I'm holding firm on this. I know she's hurting, but I'm not prepared to deal with her feelings on top of mine. The big news is that I have started treatment. I discovered a counselor that specializes in family trauma, and we've had a few sessions thus far. It has been difficult to bring up all of the grief from the past, but I believe it is helping. My therapist is assisting me in resolving my anger and trust issues, as well as providing me with strategies for setting good boundaries. In our last session, we discussed how the incident with the ring was more than just the accusation, but also years of feeling like I didn't measure up to Gemma's accomplishments. It's made me recognize that there were difficulties in our family dynamic long before the ring incident and that healing will require addressing those as well. One unanticipated result of all of this is that I've become closer to my pals, particularly Ryan. They've been extremely supportive throughout the entire ordeal. Ryan even offered to accompany me to any future family meetings for moral support. It's taught me that family is more than just blood. It's about who supports you when things go rough. Work has been a welcome distraction. I've poured myself into my career and even received a modest promotion. I'm now in charge of inventory management for my shift, which means additional responsibility and a minor pay increase. It is nice to have something pleasant to focus on. In terms of my living situation, I've decided to stay where I am for the time being. It's not much, but it's mine and symbolizes the independence I've worked so hard for. My parents offered to help me find a better place, but I declined. I have to do this on my own. However, I began to carefully consider choices for furthering my studies. A state institution located approximately an hour distant provides night classes. I am considering applying to their business program. It would be a significant move, but I believe I'm prepared for it. Overall, I'm taking it one day at a time. Certain days are harder than others. There are times when I mourn our easy connection as a family, but then I recall how fast they turned on me, and I realize I can't rush this process. My therapist thinks it's good to have mixed feelings about everything. She encourages me to be patient with myself and not feel obligated to forgive before I'm ready. We're working on techniques for dealing with upcoming family gatherings and holidays, which are making me more apprehensive than I'd like to admit. For the time being, my priorities are recovering and creating a life I can be proud of, with or without my family. It's not easy, but I'm positive about the future. I'm learning that it's all right to put myself first, and that creating boundaries does not make me a horrible person. Thank you for your continuing support. Your comments and messages have provided me with strength during this process. It's comforting to know I'm not alone in coping with familial issues like these. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my original post, so I thought it was time for a last update. A lot has changed during the last few months. The biggest news is that I've decided to relocate to a different place in search of a new employment opportunity. It's a significant advancement in my profession, and I'm looking forward to the new opportunities. The job is with a logistics company, and the work is comparable to what I did at the warehouse, but on a much larger size. It's a management role, which I've been working toward for a while. The income is much higher than what I was making previously, and it includes benefits such as health insurance and a 401k plan. Before making this decision, I had a lengthy conversation with my therapist. We talked about how this move will influence my healing process and my relationship with my family. Finally, we agreed that this could be a good thing for me, an opportunity to fully stand on my own 2 feet and identify myself outside of the family drama. I informed my parents about the transfer last week. They were astonished and disappointed, yet they expressed their understanding. My mother cried a little, stating she had hoped we'd have more time to restore our relationship before my departure. My father was more stoic, but I could see he was disappointed too. They were both concerned about me being alone in a strange place, but I told them that I'd be okay. Gemma took it the hardest. After I told her, she showed up unannounced to my flat, pleading with me not to go. She admitted that she felt like she was losing me all over again. It was a challenging conversation, but I held my ground. I informed her that this was something I needed to do for myself, and that our relationship was not in a position where her opinion could influence my decision. Our relationship is improving, but it is not perfect. We've enjoyed several family dinners in recent months. They've been uncomfortable and awkward at times, but we're gradually learning to be around each other again. Trust is still a major issue. I sometimes question their motives, wondering if they truly believe what they say or if they are simply attempting to relieve their guilt. My therapist has been crucial throughout this. She has helped me analyze my emotions and create boundaries. She has emphasized that forgiveness does not imply forgetting or pretending that the trauma never happened. It's about letting go of my anger in order to find peace of mind. I've taken that to heart. While I don't believe I'll ever forget what happened, I'm attempting to forgive my family. Not for their sake, but for mine. It was hard to carry around all of my anger and bitterness, and I'm ready to let it go. As I prepare for this relocation, I've been thinking about everything that has transpired. 3 years ago, I thought my life was finished. I'd lost everything, including everyone I cared about. But now I see how much I've learned from that experience. I'm stronger, more independent, and have a better understanding of my own worth than I ever had. I don't know what the future holds for me and my family. We intend to stay in touch once I relocate, with weekly phone calls and visits during the holidays. It's a start. Perhaps, with time and distance, we will be able to create something new. For the time being, my attention is focused on the future. I'm excited about my new work, the new city, and the opportunities that await me. I've started looking for apartments online and researched the region where I'll be residing. It's a mix of excitement and trepidation, but I'm largely looking forward to this next chapter in my life. Whatever happens to my family, I'm confident I'll be okay. I've shown to myself that I can deal with whatever life throws at me, and I've learned the value of surrounding myself with people that believe in and support me, whether they're related or not. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. My mom kicked me out for her new family, then demanded college money for my siblings when she found out I'm successful. To put things in perspective, my mother gave birth to me at the age of 20, and my biological father was never involved. He never wanted children, she told me, and because they had only been dating for a few months when she became pregnant, she offered him the option to leave, which he did. She stated that because of the bitterness of their breakup, she had chosen not to demand child support from him and he had also refused to pay. Never talking again was convenient for both of them. She was fortunate to have my grandparents' unwavering support and encouragement, which enabled her to finish her schooling and secure employment. She dated a couple men while I was younger, and she began dating Harry, a co-worker, when I was about 8 years old. Before getting married, they dated for over 3 years. Although we weren't very close, Harry and I got along well enough to put up with each other being in the house. When my mom became pregnant 4 years after they were married, everyone was overjoyed, including me. In retrospect, I probably should have known what was going to happen, but I was too preoccupied with the idea that my mother would always support me. I hoped mom wouldn't leave me now because she had endured a lot of challenges raising me by herself. She obviously distanced herself from me after she married Harry, and we began to drift apart, but I thought it was only a phase and that things would improve. During her pregnancy, I did my best to be encouraging, but she appeared to get angrier every time I was there. To avoid disturbing her, I made the decision to become scarce, but it seems that I wasn't inconspicuous enough. She and Harry sat me down for a serious conversation 6 months after she gave birth to twins. They informed me that they couldn't keep me in the house since they had 2 children to look after. They couldn't legally throw me out without getting in trouble because I was still a juvenile, having just turned 16. By highlighting the financial burden of providing for a big family, on their meager income, they attempted to persuade me otherwise. Since we had been living comfortably up until that point, I honestly didn't think it was hard to maintain 2 adults, 1 teenager and 2 kids on the salary of 2 web engineers. They clearly only wanted me gone. I genuinely didn't want to leave, so even at that point I attempted to offer ways to stop it. If money was a problem, I offered to acquire a job, but my mother said she wanted to save money and resources for the children who deserved it more. She stated that they deserved to stay with them more than I did, not that they needed this more. That was all it took for me to decide that I had to leave because it was obvious that no one wanted me. They knew I had enough dignity to know I was unwanted, so they had only nudged me in the right way after I left, without even telling me where I should go. Their strategy was successful. Since they hadn't really evicted me, it wasn't technically an eviction, but I would still consider it to be the same. I felt like I had no other choice after they had forced me into a difficult situation. I went straight to my grandparents' house when I left that day. They wanted to be there for the twins, so even though they were upset about what my mother had done, they didn't cut her off. At 16, I obtained part-time work because I could no longer financially rely on my grandparents due to their advanced age. When my mom and Harry went to visit my grandparents with the kids, I would see them every now and then, but they seldom ever inquired about me. They tended to be very formal, as if they didn't miss me at all, even when they did see me. They actually appeared to be happy without my presence. I was saddened by my mother's apparent decrease in irritability, but I knew there was nothing I could do about it. Until it was time to go to college, I lived with my grandparents. My mom wasn't involved with me even then, so I had to rely on friends to assist me get settled in my dorm because my grandparents weren't old enough or healthy enough. My mom and Harry declined, preferring to preserve money for the twins' future, so I had to take out a student loan, and one of my relatives co-signed for it. Fortunately, one of my uncles agreed to assist if I assured him that he would never be responsible for any of the costs. I worked while I was in college to make sure I wouldn't fall behind on my payments and to give myself a financial advantage. My mother and I hardly spoke once I started college, and only my grandparents were present when I graduated. Not even my mother bothered to congratulate me. In order to avoid being a burden to my elderly grandparents, I began working and lived independently after college. Although I didn't make much money during the first few years, I was still able to pay for groceries, utilities, rent, and even started to pay off my debt while setting money up for the future. In fact, I would describe that as living on a limited income. Fortunately, things finally got better. It took a while, but I eventually rose through the ranks of my organization. Considering that I received very little assistance, I'm proud of how far I've gone and am now in a rather comfortable posture. Unexpectedly, my mother discovered that I earn a good living, even though we haven't spoken for many years. At nearly 33, I currently hold a senior management role at the same organization where I began my career. About 4 months ago, I got a big promotion, but I wanted to keep it a secret, so only a select few individuals knew about it. To thank my uncle for co-signing my loan back when I was having trouble paying for college, I did inform him. According to what I understand, he just met my mom and Harry at a family get-together and urged her to get in touch with me to congratulate me on my success. Even though I'm sure he meant well, it didn't work out because she didn't even get in touch with me to offer me congratulations. In the end, my mother learned about it and recently visited my home with Harry, insisting on talking to me. I should note that I haven't spoken to her since I started college. I blocked her everywhere and left her out of my life after graduating since I didn't think there was any use in hoping she would change her mind. She didn't appear to be negatively impacted, and to be honest, I doubt she even noticed. Only my grandparents, who were aware that I disliked discussing my mother, were in contact with me and they steered clear of the subject. I didn't really stay in touch with my uncle either, so I was unaware that my mom and Harry had been having financial difficulties for a few years. Only when they arrived at my door and told me how bad things had gotten did I find out. It was wishful thinking, but the only reason I even allowed them inside was because I hoped they would be coming to make amends. They began by stating that they had heard from my uncle about my promotion and how I was one of the youngest individuals in such a prominent position in my firm, rather than congratulating me on my accomplishment. It seems that they were surprised that I had kept it from them. Ironically, I was taken aback that they expected me to communicate with them at all, much less deliver any positive news. Additionally, they were disappointed that I had shut them out of my life, claiming that it was only because they had prioritized their children above me. They maintained that I should have been old enough to comprehend their rearranged priorities and not harbor resentment as a teenager. They said that I should have supported their decisions rather than going in with my grandparents. I'm not even sure why they thought I would agree with their choice to expel me from the house. They tried to gaslight me into thinking that I was the bad guy for being angry that they had ejected me so they could spend time with their children alone, but that's how they began our reunion after all these years. They talked about how tough the past several years had been for them without even giving me a chance to explain my side of the story. They described how they had launched their own company but, regrettably, it did not succeed, resulting in losses. They were now attempting to make up for previous losses, and they desperately needed money as the twins were getting close to college age. I saw then why they had come. They needed financial assistance. They didn't waste any time going right to the point, even trying to soften it by claiming that I could make it up to them, by paying for my siblings' schooling, but that at first they were upset that I hadn't contacted them despite performing well. Their attempt to make it seem as though they were doing me a favor by allowing me to pay for the college education of 2 children I no longer knew astounded me. I told them right away that I wouldn't be doing that and that it was disrespectful of them to believe they could coerce me into doing so. I became irate and reminded them that they were the reason I had to work during my college years and pay for my own education. Because they wanted to save for their real children, who they believed deserved it more than I did, they had refused to provide me with financial support back then. I assured them that they had no right to expect anything from me now, particularly financial support, since I had never questioned their choice to put the twins first and had just left them alone. They actually no longer had the right to demand that I communicate with them. Instead of attempting to emotionally control me, I pointed out that they could now use the same money to pay for the twins' college bills because they had wished to conserve money and resources for the children who deserved it. I had nothing else to say, so I asked them to go. I was stupid to invite them inside my house in the first place, assuming they might have come to express regret for their treatment of me. They became irritated and attempted to place the blame elsewhere when I began to insist that they leave. They informed me that I wasn't innocent in this case. Their protection. They said I was overenthusiastic, over-involved, and frequently irritable while we all lived together. I was only a teenager, trying to keep in touch with my family as they drifted away from me, so I couldn't believe that was a true issue they had with me. They then had the audacity to claim that I was no better than them since I had denied their request. They said I was forgetting all the years my mother had taken care of me and brought me up alone. They said that this was my opportunity to make it up to her, and assist her, but I was being rude and unappreciative instead. Since I was a child at the time, I thought it was absurd that they would bring that up. Even if I had wanted to, I couldn't have decided not to rely on them. Furthermore, it wasn't like they were helping me. They pushed me out of the house and effectively forced me out as soon as they believed I was mature enough to manage things on my own. For the following 18 years, they refused to acknowledge my existence. I was still shocked that they had the gall to expect me to aid them now, as if I owed them something, even after everything that had happened. During the dispute, things became quite personal and ugly, and I finally threatened to call the police if they didn't leave my property. My mother reminded me of all the sacrifices she had made when I was younger, ostensibly because she wanted to be a good mother, before they finally departed after more arguments. She said that I had been ungrateful the one time she had expected me to sympathize with her predicament and allow her to put other people before myself. She now claimed that rather than the other way around, I was portraying her as the villain. Since then, this has been bothering me and I'm having trouble figuring out whether I'm to blame, whether I've been expecting too much from my mother, or whether she's simply deceiving me. I decided to post on Reddit to get some unbiased perspectives even though I'm quite sure I'm correct. AITA for not paying for my half-siblings' college tuition just because my stepdad and estranged mother are having financial difficulties. Edit. Even though my uncle had excellent intentions, I reminded him that what he did was wrong and unacceptable. His actions undoubtedly had a negative effect. I wouldn't be in this predicament if he hadn't shared my life with my mother and disclosed my contact details without my consent. He apologized excessively, stating that he was unaware of their financial difficulties and that he had no idea my mother would respond in this manner. He admitted that he had no business telling my mother about my life and that if we had wanted to get back together, we would have done so without his help. Since his heart was in the right place, I don't intend to cut him out of my life. I would have been much more angry if he had meant something different. He simply made an error. In addition, it was because of him that I was initially able to attend college. He was the only person who was prepared to assume the responsibility of co-signing my loan application. If you consider it, I might not be in this situation at all if it weren't for him. I made sure to let him know that what he did wasn't appropriate since I don't want to come across as unappreciative, but I'm also not a doormat. Whatever I did was fair enough, and I believe I found the ideal balance. We're doing great together. And I won't hold anything against him because I needed this resolution somehow. I also discussed my mom's recent struggles with my grandparents. They believe I'm correct and have promised to make an effort to persuade her to change her mind. I realized that they didn't want to lose touch with their other grandchildren, which is why they have remained in touch with my mom. They understand the struggles my mom's family is going through, but they don't think it's right or fair to put me through this. That's their position on the issue, and I believe it's reasonable enough. First update. My mother has taken it upon herself to remind me of all she did for me growing up ever since we last spoke, which was nearly 9 days ago. She probably sends me an email every other day to make me feel like I owe her something. It's not like she gave me a favor by raising me alone, and she was legally required to take care of me, so I don't really understand the point. She only reared me when it was convenient for her. She and her spouse decided to expel me as soon as I started to cause them trouble, citing the need to save money for the twins and their future. Now that we're in the future and the twins are adults, I believe they should rely on themselves rather than wasting time trying to manipulate and guilt-trip me. Although I had been ignoring her emails, I made the decision to reply a few days ago. I explained to her all I had written in my essay. She didn't take it well, as expected, and labeled me ungrateful once more. I just informed her that calling me names would not alter the truth and that I no longer wanted to have any contact with her because she had been a bad mother. I blocked her email account after that, but she made a new one to continue to annoy me. Since she never done the same for me, I blocked that one as well, and I'll keep doing so until she understands that I'm not here to mope about her. To be honest, I'm glad we're finally having this discussion because I think it will end quickly and I'll have the necessary closure. Only because I was still clinging to the hope that perhaps they had changed, that perhaps they were here to congratulate me and make amends, did I welcome them into my house and talk to them that day. However, speaking with them made me realize that they are just not the type of individuals who are able to experience regret, guilt, or shame. I've fully given up on ever making amends with them after it once again made me realize how self-centered and cunning they are. Second update. I believe that my mother's appearance at my place of employment earlier today was the most bizarre thing she has ever done. Fortunately, I wasn't working today, so she departed really fast and didn't succeed in her endeavor. I was feeling a little under the weather, so I decided to take the day off, and I'm so happy I did. She would have definitely thrown a fit or done anything to make me look foolish if I'd been present. When the receptionist called to inform me that my mom had arrived, wanting to see me and refusing to go despite being informed that I wasn't there, I learned the truth. When they put her on the phone with me, I firmly told her that I was at home, even though I was already rather anxious about what she might do. She was informed that if she attempted anything at my place of employment, I would sue her until she would be too ashamed to send her children to college. I did my best to sound threatening, so I believe it truly frightened her. She agreed to depart right away, provided I met her in person, so it must have worked. I reminded her that she couldn't afford a lawsuit at the moment and informed her that she wasn't in a position to be making demands. I also mentioned that my employer would not think twice about suing her if the situation worsened, which would be a very different scenario because they wouldn't be as forgiving as I'd been. She'd be better off just going out in silence. I didn't get any more calls or notifications regarding the event, so I guess she left after giving the phone back to the receptionist. I can't afford for this to happen again because that was undoubtedly a near call. I've made the decision to speak with a lawyer to find out what precautions I may take. She hasn't threatened me directly, so I'm not sure if this is enough to get a restraining order, but I still want to speak with the attorney to discuss my alternatives. I just have to hope that this experience was unpleasant enough for her to think about leaving me alone till then. Update 3. Since I'm very certain we now have grounds for a restraining order, I suppose I don't need to consider filing one. When my mother arrived at my place of employment last week, I was able to persuade her to leave. However, in light of this week's events, I believe that a restraining order against her needs to be issued for everyone. She was waiting outside my door when I got home from work a few days ago. I informed her right away that I didn't want to argue and that I would call the police if she didn't leave. She practically raced at me and threw me to the ground, sending my phone flying out of my hands as I was ready to dial. She cursed at me and blamed me for everything that had gone wrong in her life, while she attempted to beat me up. It took me a while to react since I was so taken aback by her insane conduct. However, because I consistently work out and am much younger than her, it was simple for me to overwhelm her when I did. Fortunately, all the shouting had alerted my neighbors to the problem and caused them to call the police. They even came to my aid and restrained my mother as we awaited the arrival of the cops. I made the decision to file charges when the police eventually arrived. She is currently in a lot of trouble. In addition, I've discussed this with my attorney and requested a restraining order against her. I've been informed that Harry has taken the children and moved in with his parents. I'm not sure if he intends to come back anytime soon. He apparently challenged her about her behavior after saving her and informed her that she couldn't continue acting in this manner. She also got into a fight with him, which seems to mean she's really lost it. I believe she finds it difficult to believe that I'm doing well in life, but in all honesty, she is to blame for her own issues. I will not be sorry for her. I'll have the restraining order in place soon, and since I'm making more money, I've already started thinking about moving into a larger home. Since now seems like the ideal moment, I'm going to start exploring my alternatives. Being linked to someone like that is embarrassing, so I sincerely hope my mother receives the support she needs and learns to behave normally. She has also been nasty to my grandparents, who have told me they no longer want to be around her. The only person she can blame for everyone avoiding her is herself. Anyway, I'm not worried about it anymore. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.